Chapter 54:15. Yi Qian was chatting with the female soldiers, while Xia Jinyuan was chatting with the captain of the peacekeeping SWAT team. Recently, there was an epidemic in the refugee camp. Although it was effectively controlled, there was still a lot of follow-up work to be done. For example, they needed to destroy all the clothes and supplies worn by the infected patients. Due to the conditions, they chose to destroy them with fire. The destruction was done by the SWAT team. When Xia Jinyuan went over, he happened to see the captain of the peacekeeping SWAT team leading a few other SWAT team members to destroy the fire. When he saw Xia Jinyuan coming over, he was stunned for a moment before he quickly came over. Disappeared for more than 10 days. Where did you go? The captain patted Xia Jinyuan's shoulder hard, his eyes full of joy. How is it? Is everything going well? They were all in the same peacekeeping camp, so they knew each other and had a good relationship. The captain of the SWAT team was not simple. He came from a city in the northern border of China and was a SWAT team member. A few years ago, Yi Qian and Weaving Sparrow were kidnapped by an Eastern Turk disguised as a taxi driver. When Xia Jinyuan participated in the rescue, he fought together with the SWAT team. However, back then, the SWAT team was the 6th team, and the captain of the SWAT team was from the 4th team. The captain, who had been in charge of anti-terrorism operations for a long time, knew very well that Xia Jinyuan had disappeared with his soldiers for a few days. He must have done something big. Now that he saw that Xia Jinyuan had returned safely, he was very happy. Not bad, it went well. See, I came to see you immediately. Xia Jinyuan stretched out his fist, and the two men bumped their fists, greeting each other in this way. The colonel said that you were not in a good mood these days. What's wrong? Something happened at home? Hearing this, the smile on the captain's face faded a little. After a while, he said, Something happened at the team. Something happened at the team. Xia Jinyuan's face darkened. They came from a northernmost border of China and were looking for extremists and terrorists who were destroying the border. These guys all had guns and weapons in their hands. What he said about the team most likely had something to do with these guys. Looking at the gloomy and sorrowful face of the SWAT team leader, Xia Jinyuan's heart sank. An accident was equivalent to sacrifice. 2 of our comrades died a few days ago. I only received the news the day before yesterday. Without hiding anything, the captain of the SWAT team found a place to sit down and lowered his head. His hands were in his hair, and the unyielding SWAT team's eyes were red. Before we came out, we agreed that they would pick me up at the airport when I returned to China. They also said that I had to live well and that they were waiting for me to return so that they could fight alongside me. Now, I'm still alive as a peacekeeping officer overseas, but there was no way for him to continue speaking. His voice was suppressed to the point that it seemed to be locked in his throat, and he couldn't even spit out half a word. He was still alive, but they had already been sacrificed. Xia Jinyuan fell silent. At this moment, he could understand the feelings of the captain of the SWAT team the most. This was because he had also experienced the sacrifice of his comrades. The tearing pain of not wanting to die could destroy his mental world that he thought was strong. They are both very young. One is 29 years old, and the other is 31 years old. The young one is not married yet. The married one only had a child at the beginning of this year. He was too busy, so he wasn't around when the child was born. He only went back once when the child was 4 months old. He only saw him once. The captain of the SWAT team was about to pull all his hair out. The child was born in January. It's already been 10 months. He only saw him once. Chapter 54:16. Speaking of this, the SWAT captain couldn't continue again. He supported his forehead with one hand and reached into his pocket with his left hand. He took out a pack of soft cigarettes that cost less than 5 yuan in China. His hand trembled a little, and when he reached for the lighter with the cigarette, the lighter fell to the ground. Xia Jinyuan, who didn't say anything, bent down to pick up the lighter. His thumb slipped, and the lighter's flame burst out. The SWAT captain took out a cigarette with trembling hands and lit himself a cigarette with the lighter that Xia Jinyuan had lit. He continued to smoke fiercely and finished 2/3 of the cigarette in one breath. There were several old smokers in the SWAT team in the north. The SWAT captain of the 6th Detachment, who had fought together with him before, also smoked. He was under a lot of pressure, and sometimes smoking a cigarette could really relieve the pressure. Half of the cigarette was almost finished, and the SWAT captain looked into the distance with a vacant gaze. My brother only saw the baby once from the time he was born to the 10th month of his life. The baby doesn't know his father, and he doesn't know what his father does or what he looks like. There is no father in the baby's world. My brother often said that he let his wife and son down the most. After finishing the cigarette, the SWAT captain's fluctuating emotions seemed to have eased a little. Xia Jinyuan said in a low voice, "It's always been a problem since ancient times. We are all prepared to sacrifice ourselves, but if a comrade really sacrifices himself, it'll be painful. But there are some things that have to be done. In the process of doing it, some people fall down and can't get up again. The living can't stay. They have to continue to finish what they haven't finished. Even if they die one day, I've faced sacrifice before. I saw my comrade die in my arms with my own eyes. I endured all those days. I have to endure it. I have to hold on. I have to live well for my dead brother and continue to finish our unfinished business. I have to take the responsibility on his shoulders and go with him. I feel like my dead brother never left and has always been by my side. Old Zhao, you have to endure it now. You have to endure it until you get through it. My brother sacrificed himself, but you have to finish his unfinished business for him. You have to finish it for him. You can't let his sacrifice be in vain. You can't let his sacrifice become meaningless. My brother died, but he still lives in each of our hearts. As long as you remember him and carry on his unfinished business, you will be able to get through it." Xia Jinyuan's words struck a chord with the captain of the SWAT team. The captain of the SWAT team wiped away the tears that had yet to flow out his eyes. "You're right. I can't let the sacrifice of my two brothers become meaningless. I have to continue on their unfinished path. For the past 2 days, I've been feeling so uncomfortable that even I know that something's wrong with me." He wanted to return to the country to find the guy who killed his 2 brothers, but he was in the country and couldn't return. "I have the heart, but I can't do anything about it. I have to endure it until I can't fall asleep at night. Every year, there's sacrifices in our 4th Detachment. I joined the Army when I was 18 years old, and I'm 31 years old now. Every year, I have to send my comrades away. Every year, every year, every year, every year, they had to go through a disaster. Every year, they had to sacrifice themselves. However, the armed police, who had been fighting on the front line all year round, had never retreated. They used their own lives to protect the safety of a nation. They shed blood, paid with their lives, but they never regretted it, still pressing forward courageously." Chapter 54:17. Facing Xia Jinyuan, who shared a common language with him, the SWAT captain, who had a lot to say, unconsciously spoke his mind. The two of them sat in the peacekeeping camp in a foreign country and chatted until the fire that burned the clothes was extinguished. Only then did they stop talking about it. The SWAT captain got up and said to Xia Jinyuan, "Good brother, thank you for taking the time to accompany me today." When we returned to China, the SWAT captain suddenly stopped talking and smiled bitterly. "I don't dare to make another promise. Let's cooperate well and work hard together the next time we patrol." Xia Jinyuan felt that they had no chance to patrol together, so he simply told the SWAT captain in advance, "Brother, I'm afraid I have to go back to China. I'll wait for you to come back." "Go back to China? It's time?" The peacekeeping soldiers had a fixed time to end their peacekeeping operations. Generally, it was a year. Xia Jinyuan and the others had been here for less than half a year. "Well, our time is short. It's very likely that we will return soon. I'm telling you in advance. If I suddenly leave one day, I will definitely return to China." "Okay, I'll see you in China." As soon as the SWAT captain finished speaking, he suddenly saw a flash of light from the side, similar to a camera flash. Xia Jinyuan immediately pulled down his blue helmet and said in a deep voice, "Reporter 1, hi. I'll go first. You go and check her camera." As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a female soldier say in an extremely cold voice, "Reporter Chun, please give me the camera." "Thank you." It was Gao Zhao's voice. The SWAT captain knew that something must have happened. He knew that Xia Jinyuan had participated in the rescue of the Wanhai reporter. He also knew that Xia Jinyuan didn't want to be known by the other party. So he whispered, "Okay, you go first. I'll deal with it." With the SWAT captain's help, Xia Jinyuan naturally felt relieved and left. He didn't pay attention to Reporter Chun, who was not honest at all. Reporter Chun didn't think that she was wrong to take the photo. She refused to hand over the camera for inspection. The final result was obvious. She was forced to hand over the camera, and all the film in the camp was destroyed. Fortunately, Gao Xiao was alert. After entering the camp, she asked Reporter Chun to take out the original film in the camera and put in the new film. This was to guard against Reporter Chun, who didn't follow the rules and deliberately entered the camp to cause trouble. One look, and I can tell that she's not an honest person. When she saw Chiu Tong and me, oh my God, her eyes and nostrils were all pointed to the sky. She thinks she's a princess and wants Chiu Tong and me to treat her as a guest. At that time, her face. Ha ha, her face. Ha ha, her face immediately. Ha 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 ha. But why? But the instructor once taught us that we must take the initiative. We must kill all the signs of possible accidents in advance. Ha ha ha. When I think of Reporter Chin's face at that time, I can laugh for a year. Later, the SWAT team was destroying some refugees' clothes. Reporter Chin said she wanted to take a photo of the scene. After I asked the colonel for permission, I took her there. Good girl. She was so cunning. The camera seemed to be aimed at the fire, but in fact the fire pulled the SWAT captain and instructor Xia, who were sitting in the camera. Chapter 54:18. Gao Xiao had been watching Chen Shuzhen's every move. When she realized that Chen Shuzhen's camera had tilted slightly when she was taking a picture, she immediately raised her head and looked in front of the camera. She saw the captain of the SWAT team and Xia Jinyuan sitting in front. Realizing that something was wrong, she didn't hesitate and asked Chen Shuzhen to pass the camera to her. Who doesn't know what she's thinking? I know what she wants to report. It's definitely going to be about the Chinese peacekeepers slacking off. Chiu Tong saw that she was so excited and worried that Yi Qian would think that she wasn't calm enough, so she quickly stopped her. Okay. If you continue, you'll become a roundworm in Reporter Chen's stomach. You'll know what she wants to do. TSK, how disgusting would it be to be a roundworm in her stomach? I'm just making the first move. Gao Xiao raised her eyebrows and smiled at Yi Qian, asking for praise. Instructor Yi, do you think I did a good job this time? Yi Qian smiled and nodded. Know yourself and know your enemy. You'll win every battle. Not bad. You did a good job this time. With you watching over Reporter Chun, we're all relieved. Gao Xiao couldn't help but feel proud after being praised. She wanted to pretend to be reserved and said shyly, "It's okay. I just think that we have to be more alert than usual here. It's better to be safe than sorry." Chiu Tong raised her hand and slapped her on the back. You're still pretending to be obedient? Do you think we're all fools? For a moment, the entire tent was filled with laughter. Yi Qian looked at the female soldiers, and the smile in his eyes deepened. They talked and laughed together. Before they knew it, it was already dark. The next day, a photo of a report from Beihai appeared in front of Yi Qian. After seeing the words on it, Yi Qian couldn't help but laugh. She's confusing right and wrong. It's all subjective. The entire report is filled with assumptions and then expands the subjective thinking. She wants the public to be the first to believe that what she's reporting is not false. This Reporter Chun is really something. When Yi Qian commented on a photoshopped article, Xia Jinyuan glanced at her and sighed with a smile. He pointed at the photo of the entrance of the Chinese peacekeeping camp and said, I didn't ask you to look at the article. We all know that it's fake. Look here, look at the content of the photo. Yi Qian glanced at the photo when he heard the commotion. He then brought the photo up to his eyes to take a closer look. He was shocked. My back. When did she take it? Didn't you say that you destroyed all her photos? The film that Gao Xiao destroyed was the new one that was replaced later. The film that captured your back was in the old one that was put away. Xia Jinyuan tilted his head and looked at the photo in Yi Qian's hand. There shouldn't be a problem with taking a photo of the back view. It's fine as long as the front view is not taken. Yi Qian was not the only female soldier in the peacekeeping camp. Reporter Chen only took a photo of the back view and did not take a photo of the front view, so it wasn't a big problem. It was just that there was a paragraph in the report that she wrote, "The female soldiers in the Chinese peacekeeping camp are all beautiful. The female soldier who took the photo of the back view is the most beautiful. She's even more beautiful than the stars in Beihai." It seemed like a casual mention, but when combined with the entire report, it seemed to mislead people in a bad direction. At this time, the internet in Beihai was very popular. When the report was published, there were all kinds of rumors on the internet in Beihai, both good and bad. The military paid attention to this report. When they saw the rumors on the internet in Beihai, they didn't say anything else. At noon, the military news reported an image of the Beihai troops training mistakes. It instantly overshadowed Chen Shuzhen's false report. Chapter 5419. The report about the Gulf Coast reporter's inaccurate report was also published in the newspaper with a series of comments below. Old Master Fu took a look at the military newspaper and said to Uncle Fu, who was brewing tea beside him, "Little Fu, bring me my magnifying glass. I want to take a good look at the photos." Uncle Fu, who was called Little Fu by Old Master Fu, put down the tea set and immediately took out his magnifying glass. Old Master Fu took the magnifying glass and enlarged the photos of the Gulf Coast reporter. He didn't look at the words, only the people in the photos. After looking at the photos for at least 3 minutes, Old Master Fu waved to Uncle Fu and said, Come, look at the back of the person in the photos. Isn't this my girl? Why is she out on peacekeeping? Jane Eyre is out on peacekeeping? Uncle Fu, who was pouring tea, was so shocked that his hands trembled. He quickly leaned closer to take a look and stared at the photos carefully. Uncle Fu's back started to break out in cold sweat. That's right. There was really no mistake. Why was she out on peacekeeping? This. Why was she out on peacekeeping? This. Do you want to ask Commander-in-Chief Xia? This. Why is she out on peacekeeping? Uncle Fu felt terrible. Jane Eyre was Old Master Fu's only granddaughter and the only descendant of the Fu family. How could he let her go on such a dangerous mission? What if something happened? How could Old Master Fu bear with it? Old Master Fu was actually worried. He read the reports and watched the news every day and was very clear about the current situation in Liabi. His only granddaughter had actually gone to Liabi to do peacekeeping. Old Master Fu, who usually didn't care about the matters of the younger generation, thought about it and called Commander-in-Chief Xia. Commander-in-Chief Xia really didn't expect Old Master Fu to recognize the back of the female peacekeeping soldier in the photos taken by the Gulf Coast reporter as Yi Qian. After receiving the call, Commander-in-Chief Xia specially opened the photos sent back from the Gulf Coast to take a closer look. As he looked, he sighed and said to Old Master Fu, "Old Master, your eyesight is really good. I really didn't recognize the back of the female soldier in the photos as Yi Qian. Until now, Commander-in-Chief Xia still couldn't recognize it." The old man was not asking the Commander-in-Chief if he could identify the person in the photo. He just wanted to know when his granddaughter would be back. Commander-in-Chief Xia could easily answer this question. He immediately smiled and said, "I've already arranged for Jane Eyre and Old Six to return to China together. Don't worry, Old Six will take care of Jane Eyre." Fortunately, they had already completed their mission. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to tell the old man and make him worry at home for no reason. Commander-in-Chief Xia knew very well that the old man had called him because he was worried about Yi Qian, who had gone to Liabic to keep the peace. When the old man heard that Xia Jinyuan would take care of him, he immediately felt relieved and smiled. That's good. I don't know if the two of them will have time to visit home after returning to China. I haven't seen them for a long time." He hadn't seen his granddaughter for a long time, so he missed her very much. He just didn't say it out loud. Now that he was relieved, he blurted it out unconsciously. After saying it, The old man immediately felt that something was wrong. No, no, no. They don't have much time. An old man like me can't be a burden to them. How about this, Xin Hui? If the two of them return to China, give me a call. Commander-in-Chief Xia smiled and said, the two of them will be back in Beijing anyway. When the time comes, I'll have them come to visit you. It's just that they don't have much time off, so don't think it's too little. Yi Qian still had to return to the airborne troops, and the Snowfield Brigade was about to enter winter training. As the brigade leader, Xia Jinyuan had to rush back to lead the winter training, so the two of them were very tight on time. When they arrived at the Fu family, the car had just stopped. Mother Qin did not even ask Qin Xiu to come over to help her. She pushed open the car door herself and hurriedly got out of the car to ring the doorbell. Mother Qin was in a hurry, and the cold wind and snow choked her, causing her to cough uncontrollably. Qin Xiu, who had gotten out of the car, walked over to support Mother Qin. Mom, if you fall in Grandpa Fu's house, Grandpa Fu will feel bad. She was his mother after all. Because of Du Jiai's incident, Qin Xiu could not do anything to Mother Qin no matter how displeased he was. In addition, Mother Qin had not pressured Qin Xiu too much this year, so Qin Xiu did not always avoid Mother Qin. Mother Qin saw that her son was not as cold as before, so she was more or less afraid. She did not force him anymore. Of course, the most important thing was she did not have the energy to keep an eye on Qin Xiu. Now, Mother Qin's biggest headache was Qining, who wanted to steal the household register every day. Qining chased after a poor soldier, but not only did the poor soldier not accept her, he even avoided Qining. This matter had already spread throughout the capital, and a few rich young ladies who didn't like Qining even mocked her at a certain gathering, causing Qining's mother to be so angry that she had another headache. Chapter 54:21. Mother Qin was worried sick about her son and daughter's marriage. However, she couldn't handle the siblings, who were each more stubborn than the other. Mother Qin couldn't do anything even if she had all kinds of methods. After helping Mother Qin up the stairs, Qin Xiu immediately pressed the doorbell. Old Master Fu, who was happily waiting for his granddaughter's return, heard the doorbell and walked over to open the door with his walking stick. When Mother Qin saw that it was Old Master who opened the door, she immediately felt relieved. Xiu and I were just about to enter the garden when we saw your family's car rushing out. We thought that there was an emergency at home and urged Xiu to come over and take a look. I heard that you were feeling unwell from a cold some time ago. Are you feeling better now? Old Master Fu, who was supported by Qin Xiu, slowly sat back on the sofa. I'm fine. It's just a small cold. It's not a big deal. Don't worry, my body is fine now. It's good that you're fine. We still need you to worry about the inside and outside of the house. We even need you to remind and keep an eye on our family's matters. You must take good care of your body. Mother Qin said very sincerely. She respected Old Master Fu as her family's elder from the bottom of her heart. There were some things that she couldn't make up her mind with Old Madam Qin and Old Master Qin, so she would come over to consult Old Master Fu. Old Master Fu had never declined and patiently guided and taught Mother Qin, allowing her to take fewer unnecessary detours. Mother Qin had always been grateful for this. Speaking of family matters, Mother Qin saw that Old Master Fu's complexion was good and he was full of energy. She couldn't help but feel slightly moved and wanted to talk to Old Master Fu again. However, she didn't immediately start the conversation. Instead, she smiled and asked Old Master Fu, "You're indeed in good health. Did something good happen again?" Just as she finished speaking, Old Master Fu laughed heartily. His voice was vigorous and full of energy. "Yes, there's a big happy event. It'll happen in the next 2 days. I'll introduce it when I have the chance." Introduce it when he has the chance? Qin Xiu raised his eyes slightly. The mirror-like lake in his heart moved slightly and rippled with layers of ripples. He thought of a person, a name that he had been hiding in his heart for so many years. He didn't want anyone to see it and didn't plan to say it again. Mother Qin was happy to see this and didn't pursue the matter. Instead, she tactfully changed the topic. Since the old man had said that he would introduce him when he had the chance, it meant that he couldn't talk about it now. Since that was the case, she couldn't ask any further. Otherwise, it would seem that she didn't have any discernment. The topic changed to Qin. Mother Qin wanted to ask the old man if he had any ideas. Why do you think this child has such big ideas? No matter how I tried to persuade her, she didn't listen to me at all. She's even more stubborn than Xiao. You're a girl, yet you're born with such a stubborn personality. Who knows how much you'll suffer in the future? When they talked about her children's marriage, Mrs. Qin felt that a few more strands of her hair had turned white. Qin Xiao pursed his lips and silently sat to the side, not continuing the conversation. Every time they talked about the marriage between him and his sister, Qin, the atmosphere in the house was as if it was filled with explosives. The smell of gunpowder was everywhere, and the slightest spark would cause the whole family to be covered in bruises. He really didn't understand why his mother was so stubborn when it came to marriage. It wasn't up to the two of them to make the decision and wholeheartedly believe that her choice was the best. Okay, Du Jai was good. Madame Li, who almost got into a fight with her half-brother, was now living in the Li family's old mansion. She used the excuse of accompanying old Madame Xiao Li to prevent her half-brother from returning to the Li family. Okay. Chapter 54:22. To put it bluntly, other than Li Jinyin, there was no one else in the Li family who was clean. Although he was annoyed that Mother Qin was the only one in charge of the marriage, Qin Xiao couldn't ignore it. Furthermore, he couldn't bear to see Mother Qin worry about this and lose sleep over it. He couldn't help but say to the old master in a low voice, "Grandpa Fu, sorry for making you worry about our family." He wanted old Master Fu to counsel Mother Qin. Old Master Fu didn't like to interfere in his family's affairs, but the Qin family had a good relationship with them. He had watched Qin and Qin Xiao grow up and doted on them like his own grandchildren. Now that he saw Qin Xiao pleading, old Master Fu really couldn't refuse. After thinking for a while, the old master sighed and said, "Speaking of Xiaoying, she came to visit me some time ago and mentioned her relationship with an officer. Since you mentioned it in front of me today, don't blame me for meddling in your family's affairs. I'll just say some things. You worry about your children's marriage and want one of them to marry well. You want everything to be good. You want a good family background, good character, and good ability. You want everything to be good and feel that you're thinking for your children. You don't think anything is wrong. But Ding Kong's wife, have you ever thought that what you want is actually not what your children want? You worry about Xiao Ying until her hair turns white, but I also see that Xiao Ying has become much more haggard. My heart aches for this child. Back then, when you were sent out with Ding Kong, it wasn't convenient for you to bring Xiao Ying along, so you left Xiao Ying behind. That's how Xiao Ying became independent. Now that her daughter has grown up, she can make her own decisions on small matters and big matters. You're forcing her and making her suffer. Xiao Ying doesn't feel good either. At the mention of Qin Ying when she was young, Mother Qin couldn't help but take out a handkerchief to wipe her tears. I feel that Ding Kong and I owe Xiao Ying and want to make it up to her. I can understand what you mean. It's nothing more than wanting the best for all of your children. I understand. Ding Kong's wife, I watched as you married into Qin Xiao, gave birth to children for Ding Kong, and did housework. I, this old man, have seen your hard work. Your father-in-law and mother-in-law have seen it all. Ding Kong understands it in his heart. Everyone in the family knows and understands you. That's why they didn't interfere in the marriage of the two siblings. They all believe that you will definitely choose a good person for the two siblings. They all remember you're good. But now you see, because of you, Xiao Xiao was sent abroad for a year in a fit of anger. Later, because of the Du family's daughter, Xiao Xiao simply gave up the opportunity to be promoted and came back to work from Melbourne. This time, you've ruined Xiao Xiao's great future. Little Xiao's matter has already passed, so I won't mention it again. Little Xiao's ability can earn back his lost future. But Xiao Ying's personality is even wilder than Xiao Xiao's. Back then, when you brought her on a blind date, she came alone with her passport and camera and traveled around the country. She hasn't returned to China for nearly 5 years. Don't you have any regrets in your heart? Because of you, our son kept interfering in his marriage and even threw away his future. Because of your interference, Our daughter simply left and didn't return to China. Don't you have any regrets in your heart? Don't you have any lingering fear? The old man didn't scold Mother Qin. He only brought up the matter to let Mother Qin realize how her actions would hurt her children. Chapter 54:23. When she brought up what had happened in the past, Mrs. Qin's heart skipped a beat. Back then, Qining had left because of a blind date and ran overseas, not returning home. It had made Mrs. Qin's heart ache. In the end, it was Qining who took the initiative to come back that the matter was over. If she were to force her again, then Mother Qin shuddered violently as she thought about it. If she were to force her into a corner again and run away from home for another 5 years, then she would be an old lady in her 40s. It would be difficult for her to find a boyfriend, let alone get married. Mrs. Qin clenched the handkerchief in her hand tightly. The old man said again, "You said that you're doing this for Xiao Ying's own good, but do you know what Xiao Ying really wants? If you really want to make it up to Xiao Ying, shouldn't you make it up to her based on what she likes? Why are you doing the opposite instead? Are you making her more distressed and angry? This isn't making it up to her. You're hurting Xiao Ying again. You've always been doing things that hurt her feelings under the banner of doing what's best for her." Mrs. Qin wanted to explain herself, but the old man waved his hand, gesturing for her to listen. "Don't explain to me. I said that I can understand what you mean, but I don't understand your actions. Our children have grown up and have their own path to take. You've interfered too much. This has to change. Hurry up and change it before it's too late." Mrs. Qin's eyes turned red when she heard this. She had done everything for her children, but in the end, she lowered her head. Mrs. Qin kept wiping the corners of her eyes with her handkerchief. After a while, Mrs. Qin said, "Old sir, the military officer that Xiao Ying likes, that military officer. What was below him?" Mrs. Qin was too ashamed to say it out loud. She was the one who thought that she was too ashamed to say it. However, old Mr. Fu said, "He rejected Xiao Ying and said that he didn't like Xiao Ying. Then you got angry?" Taking the small teacup from Qin Xiao, the old man took a sip of tea before continuing, "If that's the case, do you think Xiao Ying would have gone to our house to steal the household register? Will you be bent on marrying the other party? Xiao Ying is very smart. She has good ideas and good eyes. If that officer really doesn't like Xiao Ying and rejects her time and time again, with Xiao Ying's personality, she will definitely put him down and leave immediately without forcing him." That was true. That daughter of hers was the most efficient. She was extremely daring when it came to handling matters. She was even stronger than the men. Mrs. Qin gradually stopped crying. She seemed to understand what the old man was trying to say. But now, Xiao Ying refuses to marry anyone but him and even went home to steal the household register. That officer doesn't like Xiao Ying. Absolutely impossible. Xiao Ying mentioned the nature of the officer's job. It was very dangerous, and he often disappeared for a year and a half. He either lost contact or went missing. The man said directly that he didn't want Xiao Ying to worry about him, and he didn't want Xiao Ying to delay herself because of him. "Listen, he's such an honest officer. He clearly likes you very much, but for Xiao Ying's sake, he's afraid that Xiao Ying would marry him on a whim. So he might as well make everything clear so that Xiao Ying will back off. I think this officer is not bad. He's better than many young masters from rich families. He's honest, dutiful, and very capable. I've also asked about his family background. His family background is not bad. He has a house full of teachers. They're all ordinary teachers in a small county." Mrs. Qin was speechless by the old man's words. She could only bring up the officer's family background. "If it's in a big city, I'll make do with it." Chapter 54:24. Speaking of family background, Qin Mu's mother had a lot to say. She could only find a reason to oppose the marriage based on family background. But that's a small county. After Xiao Ying got married, the man was often not at home, and she went to an unfamiliar place alone. She was either surrounded by the man's family and friends or neighbors. In the future, when she suffers, her maternal family in the capital can't rush over to support her immediately. "Mom, do you think we're still in the old society where evil mothers-in-law often bullied their daughters-in-law? Grandpa, Grandma, and Grandpa Fu were all aristocratic families in the old society. Did you see them deliberately making things difficult for their daughter-in-law? That's not the same. Qin Mu's mother glared at her son, who always dragged her down. Your grandparents and Grandpa Fu are all well-educated and well-mannered. How could they do? Suddenly, Qin Mu's mother was speechless. Speaking of well-educated and well-mannered, that officer's family was full of teachers. Who could be more well-educated and well-mannered than them? Qin Xiu whispered in Old Master Fu's ear. Old Master Fu couldn't help but be surprised. The officer Xiao Ying fell in love with was also a Special Forces soldier. It seemed that since his granddaughter came back, all the young officers he came in contact with were Special Forces soldiers. Don't urge Xiao Ying to do things she doesn't like, and don't pick on the man's family background. Whether it's good or bad, you should see it first and then express your opinion. Qin Ying can freely choose to fall in love and get married. Then, as her parents, you can also give your opinion and make Xiao Ying more aware of what path she has chosen. Even if she takes the wrong path in the future, it's her own choice and she can't blame others. However, I still believe in Xiao Ying's judgment. Xiao Xiu's judgment is also good. Qin Xiu didn't care whether his sister's judgment was good or bad. However, he felt that his judgment was really good. He liked Grandpa Fu's granddaughter. His judgment was really good. But what was the use of having a good judgment? He was someone who came later. No matter how much he liked him, he wouldn't allow himself to do anything immoral. Qin Mu's mother should have kept Old Master Fu's words in mind. After leaving the Fu family, she said to Qin Xiu, "Xiu, do you want to take some time to see the officer your sister likes? I won't feel at ease until I see him." After saying that, Qin Mu's mother was a bit indignant. You can't blame me for not agreeing to it. I initially asked your sister to take a look at him. My heart sank. Qin Xiu thought that it was already a great piece of news for him that he had loosened up a little, but he did not agree immediately. I'll talk to my sister and see if we can go over and take a look. Yi Jian and Xia Jinyuan were both from the Special Forces. Their time was so tight that it was normal for them to not see each other for a year and a half. All right. Qin Xiu nodded and helped Mother Qin walk towards the Qin family. What Qin Mu's mother and Qin Xiu didn't expect was that they would soon see the officer Qin Ying said didn't have time. He was tall and handsome, but he was a bit dark. Well, it wasn't an ordinary dark color. It was so dark that it reflected light. 2 days later, Qin Mu's mother looked at the officer her daughter brought back and almost asked if he was a foreigner. Chapter 5425. V8's real name was Yang Shulin, and he came from a small county. His family was not very well off, but they were definitely not bad. In V8's words, his family wanted to make the profession of teacher hereditary and pass it on from generation to generation. V8 was the only exception. He suddenly said that he wanted to join the army, and his family did not have time to stop him. He had already passed the registration and physical examination and was just waiting to be informed of his enlistment. He was only one step away, and his family could not stop him even if they wanted to. After being a soldier for so many years, Yang Shulin rarely went home. This time, he came back because he had something on his mind and was seriously considering asking Xia Jinyuan for a leave of absence. There was not much time, only 5 days of leave. Xia Jinyuan did not ask him the reason and just nodded in agreement. The soldiers of the Snowfield Brigade would not take the initiative to ask for a leave of absence. Once they did, there must be something urgent. Yi Qian also thought that V8 had something urgent. It was not until the three of them separated from their comrades and got into a taxi that V8 revealed the truth. Xia Jinyuan looked out of the car window and sighed. I almost thought that spring had arrived. Outside the car window was a vast expanse of white snow. At a glance, there was ice everywhere. There was no hint of spring. However, the bachelors in the team kept revealing big secrets one after another. One after another, their hearts were sprouting. First, it was K7, then V8. Not bad, not bad. They all knew to seize the time to settle their marriage. As the captain, he did not have to worry about it. V8, who had decided to settle his marriage, sent a text message to Qin Ying in the car. Actually, he was not sure if Qin Ying was in Beijing. so he was very nervous when he sent the text. Yi Qian saw that V8's fingers were trembling when he typed on his phone. He whispered to Xia Jinyuan, "You're so nervous. Even your hands are shaking." "Of course I'm nervous. This is the first time I asked you out as your boyfriend." "I'm nervous too," Xia Jinyuan replied with a chuckle. He could understand V8's feelings. Yi Qian did not believe that the Xia Jinyuan from back then was so calm and steady that she had nowhere to hide. Nervous? He was not nervous at all. Xia Jinyuan leaned over and whispered into Yi Qian's ear, "Later, we will secretly follow sister-in-law to see her. When we get back to the unit, I can explain it to my comrades." It was not an explanation, more like gossip. Yi Jian was curious as well. She, who had never been curious, was curious as to why V8 was so nervous. Qining, Qin Xiu, her mother, and Qin Xiu. Qin Xiu's uncle and even uncle's illegitimate son, and at noon, the whole family gathered around the table to eat hot pot. Qining, who had her phone in her pocket, felt it vibrate and took it out to check. After reading it, Qining did not immediately reply to V8. Instead, she said in front of the whole family, "My boyfriend is coming over now." With one sentence, V8, who only wanted to meet Qining alone, had to face the whole Qin family. Poor V8 did not know until Qining texted him to tell him where she was. V8, who was about to go to the military guest house, looked at the address sent by Qining. He turned his head to look at the two people in the car who were whispering to each other. He handed his phone to them. "Look at this place. Do you know?" The two people who were whispering to each other looked up at the same time. Xia Jinyuan leaned over and took the phone. He glanced at it and then glanced at V8. Yi Qian looked over and could not help but exclaim, "Huh? What's wrong? Is the address wrong?" V8 could tell that Yi Qian was a little surprised. His heart, who was already nervous, jumped a few times. Chapter 54:26. Just as Yi Qian was about to speak, Xia Jinyuan secretly tugged at him. "I happen to know this place. Let the driver take you there first." He transferred the driver to Dangue Garden instead. V8 heaved a sigh of relief and took the phone. He rubbed his palms against his thighs and said nervously, "I don't know what will happen. Previously, I was only concerned that I couldn't take good care of her, and I didn't want to waste her time. Now that I'm going back to look for her, I don't know if she will agree. What if she doesn't agree? I'm so nervous right now. I don't have any confidence at all." Yi Qian lowered his head and pursed his lips into a smile. How could V8 not agree to meet her parents at Dangue Garden? "Let's talk when we meet. If she doesn't agree, chase her until she does. As a man, it's okay to be thick-skinned." As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Qian secretly pinched his thigh, causing Xia Jinyuan's lips to twitch. He was telling the truth, and it was his personal experience. V8 felt that Xia Jinyuan was right. He clenched his fists and showed his fighting spirit on the training ground. "That's right. As long as she doesn't have a boyfriend, I'll chase her shamelessly. Previously, she was the one attacking. This time, it's my turn to attack." "Attack!" The driver choked on his saliva and coughed a few times. Yi Qian actually wanted to remind V8 that the girl he was chasing might want to take him to meet her parents. However, Xia Jinyuan secretly pulled her back. Forget it. She decided not to remind him. Her comrades in the Snowfield Brigade loved to play childish games like, "You trick me, and I trick you." She just went with the flow and didn't want to be special. Dangue Garden, this is such a coincidence. She and Xia Jinyuan had planned to send V8 to the guest house first before going to Dangue Garden. Now, not only could he see his grandfather in advance, but he could also see his sister-in-law, who made V8 so nervous. How nice. V8 really didn't know where Dangue Garden was. When they got out of the car, V8 saw the armed police standing guard and immediately realized that this place wasn't simple. He thought that Dangue Garden was a hotel or restaurant. Qining was already waiting. When she saw her boyfriend get out of the car, she walked up to him. This time, it was Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian's turn to be shocked. She was Qin Xiu's sister. Xia Jinyuan didn't know Qining, and they didn't have any interactions. However, after knowing that Qin Xiu was interested in Yi Jian, He learned about the Qin family and saw Qin Ying's photo. Therefore, he recognized Qin Ying at a glance. As for Yi Jian's acquaintance with Qin Ying, it was also an accident. She had met Qin Ying's mother in Dujia at the airport, and then Qin Ying had come over and called Qin Xiu's mother Mom. In addition, she and Qin Xiu looked alike, so there was no need to guess their relationship. He just didn't know the name. She? No. To know both. Most importantly, the other one was the girl her younger brother had a crush on. Family Xia's sixth son, Xia Jinyuan, was standing next to the girl. They were standing so far apart that it was obvious that they were a couple. Qin Ying was even more shocked than Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian when they saw the girl with the man she wanted to marry. The man she wanted to marry was a special forces soldier. Then wouldn't Family Xia's sixth son and the girl her younger brother had a crush on also be special forces soldiers? The shocked Qin Ying couldn't help but take a few more glances at Yi Qian. On the way home, she asked V8 one more question. V8 didn't hide anything and told Qin Ying everything. After receiving confirmation, Qin Ying silently mourned for her younger brother, Qin Xiu. Chapter 54:27. They were indeed siblings. They even had the same taste in choosing people. Both of them were selected as special forces soldiers. But her brother was unlucky. The girl he liked had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend was a strong opponent like Family Xia. Even if he wanted to steal her, he had no chance of winning. That was not right. Family Xia did not live here. Old Master and Old Madam Qin had always lived in the Family Xia's old house. Then whose house did Old Sixth bring his girlfriend to? V8 did not know whose house they were going to. He only knew that since he got on the car heading to the mountains, his heart had been pounding and had not been quiet for a moment. This. Where exactly was he taking him? V8, who was nervous but vaguely knew something, did not ask or confirm. He was afraid that if he asked, he would be a deserter. After listening to her daughter's introduction, Mother Qin looked at the military officer who was suspected to be a foreign friend. Mother Qin really had good self-restraint, so she did not ask if V8 was a foreigner. She had done all the things that a girlfriend should do. Next, it was up to the elders of the Qin family to see V8, who was brought into the family. V8, who faced life and death on the battlefield, did not panic. When he saw the elders of the Qin family, his head, hands, and even the soles of his feet were sweating. He wanted to calm down, but he really could not calm down. The old man who sat on the sofa and asked him amiably was a figure that appeared in his junior high school textbook. V8, who had quickly and honestly told him all his family background, felt like he was facing a formidable enemy at this moment. No, that was not right. He had never been nervous when facing the enemy. Now he was really nervous. V8's honesty was very liked by Old Master Qin and Old Madam Qin. Family background could be put aside. The most important thing was that he had a good character. Besides, the young man was tall, good-looking, and had a very masculine temperament. He was also a lieutenant colonel. Other than being a little tanned, there was really nothing wrong with him. He did not smoke, drink, or play cards. He had never been in a relationship before. His family background was clean. How could it be bad? Not bad. It was really not bad at all. Old Madam Qin really felt that her granddaughter had better taste than her daughter-in-law. When Qin Ying saw that the man she liked could face the Qin family's elders' concern alone, she secretly winked at Qin Xiu, indicating for him to go outside and say a few words. "Do you know what the girl you like does?" Qin Ying asked as soon as they came out. "Do you not know anything? Do you like her just because she's pretty?" For men, the first thing they would look at was whether a woman was beautiful or not. Even if Qin Xiu was her younger brother, he was still a man. This was a common problem that all men were born with. Women also liked handsome men. This was a common problem among all humans. Qin Xiu, who frowned slightly, did not answer the question. Instead, he asked, "Did you see her just now? Did you see her when you picked up your boyfriend?" This really knew how to grasp the main point. Qin Ying glared at him. "Don't show off your IQ in front of me. That's not right." Qin Ying paused for a moment. She looked at Qin Xiu from head to toe before saying, "So, you already knew her identity?" The two siblings were smart. She did not answer directly, but she did. I'm going out for a while. Qin Xiu suddenly lifted his foot. His sister did see Yi Qian just now. Yi Qian had returned to Dangui Garden. She had returned to the Fu family. She took a step forward, and the following steps became bigger and more hurried. Two long legs took 2 steps out of Qin Ying's way, stepping on the snow as she walked outside. Chapter 54:28. There was a heater in the house, and Qin Xiu thought that Qin Ying was just going to say a few words when he came out. Thus, he only wore a dark-colored slim-fit suit, a light gray shirt, and a dark-colored V-neck vest. He looked handsome and elegant, but he felt a little cold walking in the snow. Qin Xiu, who was thinking about Yi Qian in his heart, did not feel cold at all. He only wanted to see Yi Qian as soon as possible. With a burst of momentum, Qin Xiu rushed out of the courtyard with high walls in the blink of an eye. Qin Ying was dumbfounded. Was her stupid brother going to look for someone? You should at least put on some clothes before going. Qin Ying, who had lifted her foot, suddenly stopped and stood still. Her face was a little solemn. It was good that he went to look for her. Seeing that family Xia was with that girl, her stupid brother should know that he had to let go. He had liked her for so many years. Why was he so stubborn? Instead of constantly giving up, it was better to have a heartache. Maybe he would forget. Qin Ying did not chase after him. She turned and went back into the house. She had better keep an eye on her boyfriend who had obediently sent himself to her door. He suddenly came to the capital on a snowy day and said that he wanted to see her. With his personality, he must have thought it through before coming over. Since he had sent himself to her door, how could she let him slip away again? Qin Ying entered the house. Old Master Fu looked at his granddaughter, who had returned home. He was so happy that he held Yi Qian's hand and said good countless times. 2 days ago, when I saw your back in a newspaper, I called Commander-in-Chief Xia and found out that you had gone to peacekeeping. Fortunately, you have Xiao Xia by your side to take care of you. Grandpa is relieved. Seeing that Old Master Fu was worried, Yi Qian gently held Old Master Fu's hand and replied obediently, I've made Grandpa worry again. I wasn't there for long, not even a month. If something really happened, it wouldn't have taken a month. It would have happened in a minute and a second. Seeing that his granddaughter had returned safely, Old Master Fu was truly relieved. No matter how much he supported Yi Qian's work, how could he not be worried when she went to such a dangerous country? He then turned to Xia Jinyuan and said kindly, Thank you for taking care of her outside. With you by her side, Grandpa can rest assured. Take care of Unyielding, but don't forget to take care of yourself. You and Unyielding have to be good and protect each other. Do you understand? Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian looked at each other and smiled. Xia Jinyuan smiled and said, I will take good care of Jane Eyre. Don't worry, Grandpa. Yi Qian also smiled and replied, I will also take good care of Captain Xia. Yes, yes, yes. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. As he spoke, the old man could not help but burst into laughter. As long as his granddaughter and his future grandson-in-law had a harmonious relationship, he could rest assured. Uncle Fu, who was busy in the kitchen, could not help but laugh when he heard Old Master Fu's laughter. He even picked up the vegetables a lot more quickly. Xia Jinyuan was a good talker. Every time he spoke, Old Master Fu's laughter would become much louder. Yi Qian was very happy to see this. Your father will be home for the new year this year. It's a pity that you and your father won't be able to meet. I'll ask your father if he has enough vacation time and let him spend the new year with you in the army. Grandpa, I've already met my father. We've even met for a few days. She was talking about the year she graduated and led the female soldiers to train. She had met Father Fu in the depths of the Gobi Desert. That had happened last year. However, Old Master Fu did not know and thought that it was something that had happened recently. As they chatted happily, the doorbell rang and the guards opened the door. Qin Xiu, who was standing at the door and had yet to change his shoes, heard Old Master Fu's laughter. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Chapter 54:29. The guard recognized Qin Xiu and invited Qin Xiu in as usual. Qin Xiu, who was about to enter, suddenly heard a young man's clear voice coming from inside. The corners of his lips curled up, and he slowly pressed them together. In the end, there was only the polite and distant look on his face. He had come in such a hurry that he had forgotten Xia Jinyuan's existence. No, he had not forgotten. He had just deliberately wanted to forget to deceive himself. Yi Qian's boyfriend was here. If he appeared again, he would make things difficult for Yi Qian and cause trouble for Grandpa Fu. He might even ruin the harmonious atmosphere and make things awkward because of his arrival. With these thoughts in mind, Qin Xiu slowly stopped walking. The guard who had invited him in saw this and could not help but ask him what was wrong. Qin Xiu replied gently, "I suddenly remembered that I have something to do at home. I will come to see Grandpa Fu later." "Okay, I will tell Old Master later." The guard did not suspect anything and politely sent Qin Xiu out. The snow that had stopped this morning began to fall again. White snowflakes fluttered in the air and blew in the face of the cold wind, staining his clothes. The temperature in the snowy capital was extremely low. Qin Xiu, who was only wearing a shirt and a woolen vest, suddenly felt cold. It was a cold that even his bones were cold. It poured into his blood vessels, and finally, even his heart was ice cold. Qin Xiu seemed to be very, very cold. It was so cold that his swinging arms were stiff. His arms were stiff, but his fingers could not stop trembling. In the end, he even staggered a little. He put his hands in his trouser pockets to hide the trembling of his fingers. Then he straightened his back like a blind man walking in adversity. Even if there was only darkness in front of him, he would keep walking until he found the light, the holy land in his heart. Someone was standing in front of him with an umbrella. Seeing the slender figure walking in the snow, there was deep love in his eyes. Sighing, Qining walked over with an umbrella in one hand and a coat in the other. She handed the coat over and sighed softly. "Put on. Don't catch a cold." Qin Xiu, whose face was a little pale, took the coat. A faint smile appeared on his elegant, handsome face. He probably wanted to tell Qining not to worry about him and that he was fine. His smile was a little forced. Even his hands that were buttoning his coat were so stiff that he couldn't even button it properly after a few tries. "Okay, don't try to be brave in front of me. Anyone who sees you can tell that you have something on your mind. Take the umbrella." As Qining spoke, she stuffed the umbrella into Qin Xiu's hands. Her fingers nimbly buttoned up Qin Xiu's coat. Thinking about someone you shouldn't think about will make you very, very tired. I think that girl is indeed a good person. Not only her appearance, but her temperament is also very likable. But she's taken after all. That man is an unshakable mountain. You have no chance of winning. Although my heart aches for you, I won't instigate you to steal her. You can't do it, and I can't say it either. You can only lick the wound in your heart. You've been obedient since you were young, but in fact, you have the most ideas in your heart. You can't be bothered with small matters, but no one can shake your decision on big matters. You've liked this girl for 4 or 5 years. We're almost done. It's not a good thing to keep thinking about other people's girlfriends. Even if you don't disturb others and don't say what's on your mind, you still can't face her calmly. Qin Xiu, you have to let it go. Only by letting it go can you be calm. Only then can you stand in front of her and talk and laugh. Only then can you not make her feel awkward and sad. Chapter 54:30. She tiptoed and gently brushed away the snowflakes that had yet to melt on Qin Xiu's hair. Her fingers accidentally touched Qin Xiu's ears, and the cold sensation of touching a ball of snow made Qin Ying's heart ache and her eyes turn red. Her silly brother. "Let's go home," she said in a low voice. She couldn't bear to watch any longer, so she turned around and left first. Qin Xiu, who was holding the umbrella, covered his ears that were almost numb from the cold. With a wry smile, he quickly chased after him. He knew what his sister was talking about. Because he knew, he left before he saw her. Because he knew, he had so many scruples in his heart. Because he knew, when he heard Xia Jinyuan's voice, he instantly calmed down. He knew that as long as he took one more step, he would be able to see the girl he had been trying so hard to let go of. But he still stopped and stayed far away from her. It was because he knew that he couldn't. After catching up with Qining, the two siblings shared an umbrella and went home together. Just like when they were young, Whenever the younger brother was wronged outside, the older sister would always be the first to stand up for him. There's still a long way to go. You have to look forward, understand? Yes. You're not worse than family Xia. It's just that you're a little late, understand? Yes. You can't hurt others just because you like them, understand? Yes. I only found a man in my 30s. You're only 30 years old this year. It doesn't matter if you're a few years later, understand? Yes. Tomorrow, I'll ask around in my circle and see which girls are good. I'll introduce them to you. Yes. No need. Qin Xiu, who had subconsciously nodded, was taken advantage of by Qining. He looked a little helpless. I won't interfere with your marriage, but you can't mess with mine either. Even if there's such a chance, I need to forget the person in my heart. I can't be thinking about someone else and provoke other girls. Qining was speechless. He was right. After a while, Qining said angrily, "Can you be less calm and more impulsive? Why haven't I seen you being impulsive before?" She had been like this since she was young. She would analyze everything carefully. Sometimes, she would be so calm that it made her feel ashamed of her own inferiority. Qin Xiu smiled, but didn't say anything. His character was like this and couldn't be changed. Xia Jinyuan, who was chatting with the old man, already knew that it was Qin Xiu who rang the doorbell, but did not come in. When the old man found out that it was Qin Xiu, he sighed slightly in his heart. He glanced at his future grandson-in-law and asked the guard. He came in wearing a shirt and a vest and said that he had something to do. Did this child run into some kind of trouble? Did he say what it was about? When the old man asked the guard, Xia Jinyuan immediately sensed that the old man was very concerned about Qin Xiu. Because of this, he couldn't help but rejoice in his heart. Fortunately, he made the first move and didn't give Qin Xiu a chance. Otherwise, with old master's love for Qin Xiu, he might really introduce Yi Qian to Qin Xiu. They knew each other's background, and the two families were close. It would be best if they could become in-laws. The guard told the old man that he didn't ask about Qin Xiu's urgent matter, so the old man didn't ask about it in detail. The reason why he asked was because of his sick son, who had a family Xia. He explained to his lover, sitting in front of him with a smile, "Qin Xiu, old Master Qin's grandson. You two know each other. This child is good. He often comes to accompany me. When he was young, he loved to play at home and often said that he wanted to be my grandson. Girl, when you see Qin Xiu in the future, you can call him Big Brother. He will definitely be happy. Xiu, this child, it seems that he still hasn't let go of his daughter." Chapter 54:31. The old man did not want Xia Jinyuan to find out, so he started to pant. Yi Qian quickly patted the old man's back and said, "Take your time. There's no rush. Captain Xia and I both know Qin Xiu, and we've worked together a few times. Uncle Fu also told me that Qin Xiu often comes to visit you when Dad and I are not around. I have to thank him properly for the trouble. They were already at the door, but they suddenly left." Yi Qian did not say anything, but in his heart, he knew what was going on. Xia Jinyuan did not interrupt and just listened with a smile. Qin Xiu took care of the old man because Qin Xiu was benevolent, righteous, and polite. His girlfriend said that she wanted to thank Qin Xiu, so it was only right for her to do so. The old man obviously did not know that Qin Xiu was interested in Yi Qian, so there was no need for him to say anything. If he said anything more, the old man would become suspicious. Qin Xiu took care of the old man because Qin Xiu was being nice, so Xia Jinyuan had to accept it. He could not deny it just because he liked Yi Qian. However, Xia Jinyuan was a narrow-minded guy. Even though he knew that Qin Xiu was interested in his girlfriend, he could not just stand by and watch his girlfriend thank Qin Xiu. When the old man heard Xia Jinyuan say that he also knew Qin Xiu, his heart skipped a beat. Xia Jinyuan laughed and said, "Why don't you come over and sit with us? The last time I was in trouble, it was all thanks to Qin Xiu. Speaking of which, I still owe him a thank you." Qin Xiu played a part in killing Cobra and escaping from the Melbourne hotel. As a diplomat, he did not have to come to the hotel in person, but he still came. Yi Qian smiled. She could tell what her man was thinking at a glance. In fact, she knew very well that she couldn't meet Qin Xiu alone even without his scheming. Seeing her man being jealous from time to time and armed to the teeth at the slightest sign of trouble, she actually felt pretty good. After following Captain Xia for so long, she had also become a little wilted and bad. The old man, who had no idea what was going on in the young man's mind, was slightly relieved because of Xia Jinyuan's invitation. It seemed that he didn't know anything. He immediately smiled and said, "That's right, that's right. Since he's here, let him come to our house for a meal. You three young people will definitely get along well with each other. Outstanding people should have common topics when they're together, not to mention that you all know each other." He had to let Xiao give up on his own initiative. Dragging it on was not a good idea. Thus, the matter was happily decided. After Qin Xiao knew about it, he was silent for a while before he smiled and agreed to have dinner at the Fu family's house tonight. When old Master Qin heard this, he smiled and said to the guard who came to deliver the message, "Go back and tell your old master that I'll come over for dinner if he adds another pair of chopsticks tonight." He wanted to tell old Master Fu about the good news at home. His granddaughter, Qin Ying, had finally found a boyfriend who was calm and honest. He answered all the questions asked and answered all the questions. It was obvious that he had a good character. Except for the man's special occupation, there was nothing wrong with him. But from his granddaughter's point of view, it was more suitable for the man to not come home often because she also didn't come home often, so there was no such thing as staying at home alone. This child was too bold and directly said everything. Fortunately, the man didn't mind and even thought that his granddaughter was right. In this way, any pot and any lid would fit perfectly. Old Master Qin wanted to share the good news at home with old Master Fu. Secondly, the guard said that old Master Fu was in a good mood. Old Master Qin guessed that the Fu family's granddaughter, who hadn't been told to the public, was back. Chapter 5432. His granddaughter had been back for a few years, but old man Fu still had not told him the reason. He could not help but want to know the reason. In the afternoon, V8 accompanied Qin Ying and Mrs. Qin to go shopping for New Year's items. In Qin Ying's words, she could finally rest assured and go shopping empty-handed. Mrs. Qin secretly glared at Qin Ying. She wanted to save some face for her daughter and not let the man think that her daughter was lazy. Who knew? The man thought that his daughter was right. He acted as if everything her daughter said was an imperial edict. As a mother, she felt that her daughter was being too domineering. She could not help but feel that her daughter was being too domineering. However, she had to admit that she was still very happy to see this. Now that there was a hint of their relationship, V8 did not dare to let his guard down just because Qin Ying had brought him to meet her family. Moreover, he felt that it was only right for him to listen to Qin Ying. Listen to his girlfriend. It was the same for those who had wives and girlfriends in the team. Even their captain, who was such a powerful person, had to listen to Yi Jian obediently in real life. If she told him to go east, he would never go west. V8 went shopping with them. Old Master Qin and Qin Xiao came to the Fu family early in the afternoon. With old Master Qin by his side, Qin Xiao was much more natural. Other than not daring to make eye contact with Yi Qian, no one could tell that he had any feelings for Yi Qian. The old man secretly observed Qin Xiao for a while. He saw that Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian were also very natural. The three of them could even talk about the same thing. The old man really thought that Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan did not know what Qin Xiao was thinking. The three of them fooled the old man perfectly. Yi Qian went into the kitchen to help Uncle Fu. The two old men went to the chess room to play chess and chat as usual. Only Qin Xiao and Xia Jinyuan were left in the living room. It was a little awkward for the two of them to sit face to face. Qin Xiao smiled and said, "Let's go outside for a walk." Xia Jinyuan answered readily, "Okay, I've been into a garden countless times, but I haven't had the chance to walk around properly. I heard that the scenery at the top of the mountain is pretty good. Why don't we walk to the top of the mountain?" If he went out for a walk, there must be something he needed to talk about, so he might as well talk about it. In the face of his love rival, Xia Jinyuan would never back down. Instead, he took the initiative and faced the situation openly. He was the rightful empress. What was there to be afraid of? There was no need. Yi Qian, who was helping out in the kitchen, went to the tea room to pour hot tea for the two elders. Only then did he find out that the two who had been sitting in the living room had left. He was not worried, so he casually asked the guard when they left and found out that it had only been a short while. Yichien did not take it to heart and went to do his own work. Since she was staying at home tonight, she needed to tidy up the room upstairs. It had not stopped snowing outside. The roads that had just been swept clean in the morning were now covered with snow again. The armed police in charge of Dangway Garden security work drove a snow-shoveling truck from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain. There were also armed police who used brooms to sweep the snow off the driveway to make it easier for vehicles to pass. Xia Jinyuan looked at the only driveway in the snowy world that was so clean that it looked like a black dragon coiling around it. He pointed to the mountain path and said, "Let's take the mountain path. It's quiet, and we can enjoy the snowy scenery." Xia Jinyuan was not interested in enjoying the snowy scenery, mainly because it was quiet and easy to talk to. Qin Xiu did not have any objections. He nodded slightly and went up the mountain path that was wide enough for 3 people to pass together. The mountain path was all steps with chains on both sides. The 2 slender men walked up the steps and chatted back and forth. It seemed that they had a good relationship. They were all on the surface of the venue. No matter how turbulent the inside was, it would not be shown on the surface. The 2 of them were very calm. No one mentioned Yi Jian first. They talked about national affairs and the war abroad. They talked until they were halfway up the mountain, but they still had not finished talking about the topic. Chapter 5433. Old Master Qin, who was sitting at home playing chess, placed a black piece. Yichien made tea and left. Old Master Qin waited for the door to close and said to the old gentleman, who was thinking about placing a piece, "The more I look at this granddaughter of yours, the more I like her. We're old acquaintances and should have been the first to enjoy the moonlight, but a freak combination of factors happened. Just thinking about it makes me feel uncomfortable." Yichien caught the old man's eye. It was mainly because he had been in the military for a long time and had an awe-inspiring righteous aura. He was extremely spirited and valiant, making people feel comfortable and safe just by looking at him. Old Master Qin started working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the last 60 years and retired in the late 80s and early 90s. Although he retired for more than 10 years, his discerning eyes didn't age at all. What kind of person had what kind of character, what kind of words they would say, and which words were true and which words were false, Old Master Qin could basically figure them out. Old Master Qin was very clear about what kind of character Yichien had. It was precisely because of this that he sighed with emotion every time he saw Yichien. Why didn't he make a move earlier? Why didn't he let his grandson, Qin Xiu, and Yichien be together? Why didn't these 2 young people see eye to eye? How could they miss it like this? Just thinking about it made Old Master Qin feel very regretful. The old gentleman looked at it indifferently. Children and grandchildren have their own blessings. We can't control who they're together with. Husband and wife need to talk about fate. Without fate, even if they grew up together, they can't become husband and wife. They can only be brother and sister. I also like Xiu, but they don't have the fate of being husband and wife. I think it's not bad to become brother and sister. His grandson and future grandson-in-law had a good relationship. Although Qin Xiu was a good child, he wasn't someone his granddaughter liked. In addition, the words Ding Kong's wife said last time were really unpleasant. Even if there was a bit of fate, it would be ruined by Ding Kong's wife. He placed a white piece and instantly blocked Old Master Qin's way out. Old Master Qin, who was holding a black piece, saw this and snorted. He said confidently, "You want to block my way out? I don't only have one way out." After he finished speaking, he immediately put down the black piece in his hand. With one piece, he turned the tide and gave the game a chance to survive. The old man picked up his teacup and smiled as he took a sip to moisten his throat. The outcome hasn't been decided yet. Don't be too proud. You don't have to worry about Xiu's marriage in the future. He's hiding someone in his heart, so let him rest for a while. You noticed it too? Old Master Qin, who was holding the go box with one hand and playing with the go pieces inside the box with the other, stopped his movements and put the go box to the side. With a somewhat serious expression, he said, "I've always felt that Xiao has someone in his heart, but it doesn't seem like it after careful observation. From what you've said today, I'm afraid that he really has someone in his heart. Moreover, it has been a while. My daughter-in-law has always been headstrong and likes to interfere. Since Xiao has someone in his heart and has never told the family, I'm afraid." Old Master Qin sighed and was even a bit angry. "I'm afraid it's because of his mother that Xiao didn't dare to reveal the truth to his family and kept his secret." Seeing that his old friend was angry, the old man quickly poured a cup of tea and handed it over. "Come on, calm down. I just said that the children and grandchildren have their own good fortune. You haven't even left the tea room, and you've already forgotten it. Aside from interfering with Ing and Xiao marriage, Ding Kong's wife is quite good in other aspects. You can't be angry with her for this. As a parent, which parent doesn't want their children to marry well and marry well? She has a lot of worries, so we have to understand. Both of you just need to act as usual. You don't need to interfere." Chapter 54-34. You see, after so many years of battle of wits and courage, Ing still won and brought back a grandson-in-law that both of you are satisfied with. This shows that no matter how stubborn Ding Kong's daughter-in-law is, she can't win against her children. Believe me, she can't win against Xiao either. Xiao is more difficult to deal with than Ing. He can fight with the ministers in diplomatic situations, so how could she not win against his mother? The old man's words were reasonable, and old Master Qin also thought that it was quite reasonable, but he still had some worries in his heart. The two siblings have different temperaments. Ing is outgoing and flamboyant, and when she has a big idea, she will directly run away from home and take control of Ding Kong's daughter-in-law. Xiao is different. Although Xiao is fierce, he can't do such an extreme method like Ing. He is also very filial, so I'm really worried that in the future, he won't let his mother be sad and will make himself sad. At that time, his whole life will be ruined, so how could he talk about family happiness? Ha ha! You are really old and muddle-headed. The old man suddenly laughed. Under old Master Qin's puzzled gaze, the old man drank a mouthful of hot tea and slowly said, "Ding Kong's daughter-in-law has always wanted to introduce the daughter of the deputy chief of staff due to Xiao. In order to force Xiao to agree, she even brought Du Qianjin to Dangui Garden. In the end, wasn't the result the same? Did Xiao agree? You are confused because of your concern. Ding Kong's daughter-in-law forced him to that point, but Xiao still didn't bow his head. Do you think he will bow his head in the future? You still don't understand Xiao's inner toughness, do you? This is really..." Old Master Qin couldn't help but laugh when he saw the dawn. "So it's true that I'm confused because of my concern. I'm not as clear as you." The old man said, "Sure, has already done so much. Do you think he will still listen to his mother? Don't worry, Xiao will definitely marry a good girl in the future." Old Master Qin laughed. Come. Let's play chess. Since Xiao has his own ideas, I'll wait for Xiao to bring the girl he likes into the house. But it's definitely not his family's girl." The old man silently added this sentence in his heart. "You just wait. It will happen sooner or later." "That's not right. You want to win when I'm unprepared? You're looking down on me, aren't you?" The old man placed his chess piece. As they played back and forth, the two old men were all smiles. Old Master Qin was worried. Old Qin Xiao. Of course. Xia Jinyuan just found out that old man, Li, had passed away. The rumors in the capital said that he was killed by his second son, Li Ronghuan. There were also rumors that Li Chuhai's death was related to Madame Li, which made old man Li so angry that he passed away. Then, there were rumors that Madame Li simply moved back to the Li family to take care of old man Li to prevent Li Ronghuan from taking over the Li family's business. In short, the biggest news in the capital this year came from the Li family. Xia Jinyuan, who had been abroad, didn't know about this, and Commander-in-Chief Xia didn't tell him either. Li Jinyin wanted to tell Xia Jinyuan, but he couldn't get in touch with him. He sent a text, but Xia Jinyuan left his phone in the team and didn't carry it with him. so he didn't know about it until today. Xia Jinyuan didn't care about other things. The only thing he cared about was... He frowned slightly, exhaled white smoke from his mouth, and asked in a deep voice, how did it spread that Madame Li had something to do with Li Chuhai's death? Qin Xiu, who was a little out of breath, leaned against the climbing chain and adjusted his breathing before he said, the Li family kept it a secret. Old man Li passed away in a hospital. Before he died, Old man Li asked the nurses to leave the ward. At that time, Old man Li, who was awake, also nodded in agreement. Only Old Lady Li, Madame Li, and Li Ronghuan were in the ward. But later, it was said that before Old man Li passed away, Old Lady Li was shocked and fainted. Chapter 5435. There are no outsiders around. It's still a mystery whether Old man Li was angered to death by Li Ronghuan or by Mrs. Li. The rumor that Li Chuhai's death has something to do with Mrs. Li is spreading like wildfire. Some say that Li Chuhai escaped from the country as a criminal and was punished by the law because Mrs. Li asked him to come back. Others say that Li Chuhai committed a heinous crime and was targeted and reported to the authorities. He escaped from the country and was shot dead by the police. Xia Jinyuan's eyes darkened when he heard this. It was just a rumor, but the truth of the matter could be found after some details were cut out. So the person who spread these rumors must know something. Then, Xia Jinyuan's heart suddenly turned cold. He said to Qin Xiu, we'll go up the mountain to enjoy the scenery another day. Let's call it a day. He had to ask his old man right away. The rumors outside were not clear, but his old man had definitely investigated it thoroughly. Qin Xiu invited Xia Jinyuan out for a walk. His real intention was to talk about Yi Qian. Before they could talk, Xia Jinyuan was in a hurry to leave. Qin Xiu raised his hand and grabbed the iron chain that was covered with snow. His movement was a little big, and the iron chain connected to the small stone pillars on both sides swayed. Strips of snow fell off, revealing the rusty iron chain. When do you and Yi Qian plan to get married? He suddenly asked. His jawline was slightly tense. His elegant and handsome face looked calm, but his heart was in pain when he asked the question. It was cruel to ask the girl he liked when she would marry someone else. Qin Xiu wanted to use such a cruel method to end his feelings for Yi Qian. It had been too long, really too long. It had been so long that he was used to silently liking Yi Qian and was used to looking at her photos before going to bed every day. It had been so long that he thought that he would only like her in this lifetime. As his sister said, it was too painful to like a girl who was already taken. He had liked her for so long, and it was time to let go. He wanted to let go very, very much. He wanted to try letting go. Even if it was cruel to himself, he had to do it. Xia Jinyuan, who was about to leave the mountain, did not expect Qin Xiu to ask him when he and Yi Qian would get married. If he had not suddenly come and left in the morning and let him know that he was still thinking about Yi Qian, he would have been fooled by him and thought that he had already given up on Yi Qian. Qin Xiu asked a question that would hurt Xia Jinyuan. Xia Jinyuan admired Qin Xiu's gentlemanly demeanor at this moment. Knowing that Qin Xiu was thinking about his girlfriend, Xia Jinyuan didn't hate Qin Xiu at all. From the very beginning, Qin Xiu was a gentleman. If it were him, it would be very difficult for him to do what Qin Xiu did. She replied with a smile. She just graduated last year and is still working hard on her career. There's no hurry. Marriage should take a few more years. It would take a few more years. Qin Xiu lowered his eyebrows to hide the awkwardness in his eyes. Why don't you get married early? You can still work hard on your career after getting married. After getting married, he would be able to ruthlessly cut off his feelings for Yi Qian. Jane Eyre wants to get married a few years later. I respect her decision. Getting married a few years later won't affect our relationship. So let's get married a few years later. I don't want to make her unhappy because of marriage. I'll do whatever she wants. Although he admired Qin Xiu's gentlemanly demeanor, he still had to be cautious. He could not let his guard down. Chapter 5436. His love rival was too strong, and he could not give him any chance to take advantage of the situation. Qin Xiu loosened the bone-chilling chains and clenched his fists so tightly that his palms were imprinted with the chains. He withdrew his hands and slowly put them back into his coat pockets. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Xia Jinyuan quietly. He said softly, "Xia Jinyuan, I know that you have always been very, very good to her. Your family has always been very, very good to her. Grandpa Fu is also very satisfied with you and treats you as his future grandson-in-law. You must always be very, very good to her. Don't give me a chance. I have been thinking about her for 5 years. For 5 years, I haven't let go of her or forgotten her for even a single day. I have tried countless times to forget her, but I have never succeeded. So, you must not give me a chance. Because once I seize the chance, I will definitely." Qin Xiu, who was speaking softly, stopped. Under Xia Jinyuan's cold gaze, he looked straight at him fiercely. "Once I seize the chance, I will definitely hold her firmly in my hands and occupy her. Even if I have to hit my head and bleed, I will definitely pursue her. I will not give you any chance to redeem yourself. Remember my words. I mean what I say, so please don't give me a chance." After he finished speaking, Qin Xiu's gaze was fixed on Xia Jinyuan. In the face of Xia Jinyuan's sudden hostility, Qin Xiu calmly faced it without the slightest bit of fear. Xia Jinyuan had walked through the flames of war and returned with a body full of ruthlessness. However, Qin Xiu was no exception. Although there was no smoke on his battlefield, if he was slightly careless, he would also be bitten until there was nothing left of his bones. He had overcome all obstacles for the country and was fearless. He was never afraid of assassination. What he cultivated was not the ruthlessness of a real battlefield, but an aura that could instill fear into the enemy. He was neither servile nor overbearing, calm and elegant, and there were countless glints and shadows of swords as he talked. In the face of Qin Xiu's challenge, Xia Jinyuan's lips curled up slightly, and he said calmly, "In order to pursue her, I spent several years advancing step by step until she finally agreed. From the moment she agreed to be my girlfriend, I didn't give myself the chance to let her down, let alone give others the chance to take advantage of me. So, please don't worry. I will definitely treat her well. I will use all the sunlight in my life to treat her well. As for you, you won't have the slightest chance to take advantage of the rest of your life. You'll never have a chance." Qin Xiu stared at him for a while, then nodded. "Okay, I believe you can do it. Don't give me a chance. I'll definitely cut off my longing for her, but I don't know when I'll be able to cut it off. Perhaps very soon, perhaps he would use the rest of his life to end this thought. Seeing her get married, seeing her give birth, seeing her have many children and grandchildren, thinking about it, it was actually very beautiful. He was actually willing to do it. In the pure white world, the man who was as elegant as the wind and water stood in the vast snow and suddenly smiled. That smile, his eyes were clear like the spring light. That smile was the best scenery in this winter. A gentleman was like jade, elegant and refined. Qin Xiu was just like that. The two of them went down the mountain together and didn't mention Yi Qian again. Since the conversation was over, there was no need to mention it anymore. Xia Jinyuan returned to the Fu residence and immediately went upstairs to the guest room. There was a landline in the guest room. He needed to contact Commander-in-Chief Xia and ask him what was going on. Commander-in-Chief Xia knew that Xia Jinyuan had gone to the Fu residence and had been waiting for his call. Commander-in-Chief Xia felt that it was a little late for him to call now. He should have called in the morning. Chapter 54:37. There was no need for pleasantries between the father and son. Xia Jinyuan still wanted to ask if his father was in good health, and if Old Master and Old Madam were in good health. Before he could ask, Commander-in-Chief Xia answered all his questions in one breath. Xia Jinyuan, who was holding the landline, was silent. Sometimes it was not that he did not want to talk to his father properly, but that his father really did not want to talk to him properly. The conversation had not even started, but he had already reached the point where there was no way to continue. Then, it was time to get down to business. Commander-in-Chief Xia did not realize that he had ruined the conversation. Whether his family was doing well, or whether his elders were doing well, even if they were not, his son, who was in the army, could not rush back. He directly said that they were doing well, so as not to distract him. Another similar kind of concern was just that strong. He asked about the Li family and the many rumors about the Li family. The most important thing was whether there was any problem with Yi Qian. There was a big problem. Commander-in-Chief Xia told Xia Jinyuan that Yi Qian had been exposed. Xia Jinyuan listened carefully, and his handsome face instantly turned cold. How did they find out that it was Yi Qian? How could military secrets be leaked so easily? Did something happen in there? No, there is no problem here. The problem lies with someone else. Commander-in-Chief Xia's face was also a little cold. Li Ronghuan is quite capable. He found out that some of Sun Xueqing's comrades had left the army and no longer contacted each other. There was no way to know about the twists and turns of the situation, and they did not know about Li Chuhai's crimes. Li Ronghuan asked around and mentioned Yi Qian. Li Ronghuan is also regretting it now. He originally planned to go abroad immediately after bringing down the Li family, but now, because of Yi Qian, he has been staying in the Li family to keep an eye on old Madame Xiao Li. The problem on old Madame Li's side is not big. 3 of old Master Li's former subordinates, who stood at the top of the pyramid, were arrested. 2 of them were extremely clean. There was nothing wrong with their sleeves. Now, only the 2 of them are still in their original positions. One of them was your sister's old superior, and also old man, Li's most well-hidden subordinate. Before a thorough investigation, I really did not know that he was actually promoted by old man Li. Xia Jinyuan's eyebrows twitched slightly, and his thin lips were slightly pressed together. The one from Nan province? Yes, it's him. Although it had been more than a month since the investigation, Commander-in-Chief Xia was still shocked when he thought about it. Old man Li was really a big tree with deep roots. If he had not been implicated by old man Li back then, the political situation would not have been what it was today. With old man Li's foresight and strategy, he definitely had a lot of power in his hands, and the situation today would not have been like it was today. Old man Li's early retirement was also the only good thing Li Chuhai did. Xia Jinyuan was silent for a while before he asked, "Is it very clean? Did you talk to my sister?" Commander-in-Chief Xia smiled and answered, "I did twice, but your sister said it was very clean and there was nothing to talk about." On the other hand, there was some trouble on Ho Zi's side, but fortunately, Ho Zi is a smart person. Other than being in the underworld, he has not been involved in drugs or bribery at all. He is a smart person, and he handled everything neatly without leaving any traces behind. Moreover, after so many years, he has successfully changed his career. I invited him for a few days of tea, and he came out safe and sound. Knowing his relationship with the Xia family, I informed the family before I invited him. I didn't dare to alarm the 2 elders, and even kept it a secret from your sister. Until now, the 2 elders still don't know about it. Your sister knows about it, but she doesn't feel at ease. Chapter 5438. After all, Ho Zi used to be in the underworld, so his hands and feet were more or less dirty. Fortunately, he found Xia Yiwei when he was young. Xia Yiwei, who came from a family Xia, restrained him a lot. Every time he saw Ho Zi, he would immediately remind him, so that Ho Zi didn't get into big trouble. Ho Zi, who invited Xia Yiwei for tea for a week, now treated him like an ancestor. Master Ho, who used to be able to shake both the underworld and the underworld, now had no status at home. He looked majestic and rich outside, but at home, he was a slave to his wife and children, who were willing to serve him. Hearing that Xia Yiwei wasn't implicated, Xia Jinyuan's tense expression became a little better. Is the Li family now difficult to make a name for themselves? Deputy Chief of Staff Du should also know about it and restrain Madame Li. Old Madame Xiao Li had the idea at first, but when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The Li family is in troubled times, and the Li family has suffered a great loss. No one dares to stand out and promise old Madame Xiao Li. Because of this, old Madame Xiao Li was so angry that she was hospitalized for half a month. At the mention of old Madame Xiao Li, Commander-in-Chief Xia frowned. This old lady was a troublemaker when she was young, but now, without old man Li to hold the fort, she started to cause trouble again. Who would want to argue with an old man? No, on account of the fact that she was old Master Li's daughter, he wouldn't care too much about it. But this old lady was really powerful. She grasped everyone's thoughts and didn't argue with her. Instead, she became the right to cause trouble, jumping up and down without a moment of rest. In the end, Li Ronghuan stepped in and directly moved back to the old house of the Li family. When old Madame Xiao Li, who was outside, saw that her own backyard was not guarded, she hurried back to the old house for fear that the Li family's business would be taken over. Until now, she was still trying to outsmart Li Ronghuan. Mrs. Li is restrained by old man Du, so she doesn't dare to get involved. Now she is trapped in the Li family. The only problem is Li Chuhai's son and daughter. The National Security Bureau has found some traces, and I'm afraid that the siblings are not good people. It was not a secret that Li Chuhai had a pair of children. Back then, Li Chuhai had even brought them back to the country. Unfortunately, it was fake. His real children were left in Melbourne and had never shown up. Even the Li family was hidden. No one knew what his children looked like. His son, Li Jun, has returned to the country. There are photos of him in the country, but there is no news about his daughter. We only know that she has been in Melbourne all this time. On the phone, Commander-in-Chief Xia told Xia Jinyuan everything he wanted to know, including how Li Jun knew about the existence of Yi Qian. He told Xia Jinyuan everything. Now, Yi Qian was not on guard against the Li family, but against Li Chuhai's son and daughter. After hanging up the phone, Xia Jinyuan sat by the bed for a long time, without getting up. Melbourne again. In recent years, he had been to Melbourne the most. Now that he was still connected to Melbourne, he was afraid that he would go there again. After sitting in a room for a while, Xia Jinyuan calmed himself down and opened the door to go downstairs. It was not dinner time yet, so there was no one in the living room. Even Qin Xiu, who had come back with him, was not there. He looked into the kitchen and saw Yi Qian and Uncle Fu talking and laughing in the kitchen. Xia Jinyuan wanted to go in and help, but Uncle Fu, who was sorting the vegetables, immediately said with a smile, Don't come in. Go to the tea room and take a look. Old Master Qin likes to ask his grandson to help him when he plays chess. Go and help the old man. We can't lose. Yi Qian urged him to go. Go and take a look. I'm not familiar with Go, so I can't help at all. I was kicked out by Grandpa as soon as I went in. Chapter 5439. Qin Xiu, who came back with cold air, went straight to the tea room. Xia Jinyuan went to the kitchen first and talked to Yi Jian for a while before going upstairs. Yi Jian took the fruit plate to the tea room. In fact, she had no intention of staying to watch the chess game. The old man asked her to go out and continue to assist Uncle Fu. She had a feeling that her grandfather, who had hurriedly chased her out, seemed to know something. Xia Jinyuan, who was being pushed by her, did not move. Every time Yi Qian pushed him out of the kitchen, to a place where Uncle Fu could not see, Xia Jinyuan suddenly wrapped his arms around Yi Qian's waist. He hugged her tightly, turned around, and pressed Yi Qian against the wall, which was still warm from the heat. He pressed his whole body against hers, enveloping Yi Qian tightly. Yi Qian had seen Xia Jinyuan's boldness in the room, but this was in the living room. Yi Qian was so shocked that she was like a little white rabbit. She wanted to jump up, but the hunter who trapped her was a master. He did not give her a chance to jump up and easily blocked her escape route. Yi Qian had been improving every year, and every time she fought with Xia Jinyuan, she would not be at a disadvantage. However, as she improved, so did Xia Jinyuan. His skills were getting better and better. He easily trapped Yi Qian, leaving her with no way to escape. Yi Qian, who was trapped in the living room, was very nervous. She was afraid that Uncle Fu would see her in the kitchen, and she was also afraid that the two elders who were playing chess would come out and see her. She hurriedly pressed her hands against Xia Jinyuan's chest and stammered in panic. Let go of me, or they'll see us. I'm not afraid, even if they see us. Xia Jinyuan was not afraid. He wrapped his arms tightly around Yi Qian's slender waist. As he spoke, his handsome nose was so close that it touched Yi Qian's nose. Do you know what Qin Shio asked me to talk about? Do you want to know? Comrade Xia Jinyuan, who did not give his love rival a chance, ran to his girlfriend and acted aggrieved. As the saying goes, the crying child gets the milk. To be honest, Xia Jinyuan had known this since he was a child. Otherwise, why would she be able to escape from Commander-in-Chief Xia's belt every time? It was all because she could cry. Other children would stiffen their necks and stubbornly refuse to admit their mistakes when their belts fell off. However, Xia Jinyuan was different. Before Commander-in-Chief Xia's belt fell off, his screams alarmed all the family members in the courtyard. There was no reason for him to forget the principles that he had understood when he was young. Not only did he not forget them, he even used them more skillfully. Yi Qian was very nervous when he heard this. He asked softly, "What did she say? Are you angry?" He probably won't say anything. Yi Qian believed in Qin Shio's character. If Grandpa said it was good, then it must be good. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw his man's face darken. Yi Qian's gaze turned serious. He knew that he had said something wrong and quickly comforted him. Don't worry. Even if he says something, I won't care. You don't have to worry about it either. Could it be that he really said something? That's impossible. Qin Shio was not the kind of person who would speak carelessly. Xia Jinyuan, who was trying to appease him, revealed a meaningful smile. I didn't worry about it, but it doesn't feel good to have someone coveting my girlfriend for so many years. Also, why do I feel that you admire him? I do admire him. I admire his character and his ability at work. Yi Qian did not evade the question. She had to make things clear. It had nothing to do with Qin Shio, so there was no need to avoid it. Chapter 5440. Xia Jinyuan originally wanted to make Yi Qian feel sorry for her, but she said it so seriously that he was too embarrassed to continue. He thought for a moment before replying. Yes, he's indeed a good person. That's why I'm very worried. As he spoke, he held Yi Qian's hand and pressed it against his heart. Here, it's all hurt. In the corridor leading to the chess room, Qin Shio, who was holding a thermos, listened to the entire conversation. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore and walked out. I didn't say anything. Don't listen to his nonsense. Xia Jinyuan only had one arm around Yi Qian's waist and the other hand holding Yi Qian's hand against his heart. The wall around him was cracked. Qin Shio's sudden appearance shocked Yi Qian so much that he really turned into a little bunny. He frantically pushed Xia Jinyuan away and instantly jumped out of Xia Jinyuan's arms. Xia Jinyuan, who was asking for candies, didn't expect Qin Shio to suddenly appear. His arms were suddenly empty. He lowered his head, covered his fist, and coughed softly. He said to Qin Shio, "I haven't said anything yet." "You haven't said anything, but you've already said a lot." Qin Shio, who was holding a thermos, walked over to Yi Qian. She stood tall and straight beside him and frowned slightly. "Does he usually bully you like this?" What Qin Shio meant by bully was equivalent to taking advantage of someone. Yi Qian was still embarrassed by the question. When she heard this, she raised her head and glanced at Qin Shio. Then she looked back at her man and explained, "No, he really didn't say anything just now. He even said that you were a good person." Her explanation made Qin Shio feel a little bitter in his heart. She was so protective of Xia Jinyuan. She really put Xia Jinyuan in her heart and loved him. "Then do you want to know what I said to him outside?" Qin Shio looked at Yi Qian without blinking. "If you want to know, I can tell you right away." Xia Jinyuan reached out and pulled his girlfriend, whose ears were still red, into his arms. He gave Qin Shio a warning look and said, "Qin Shio, the old men are thirsty. They're waiting for your hot water to make tea." When their gazes met, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their heads. Seeing Xia Jinyuan so nervous, Qin Shio suddenly thought of something. A calm smile suddenly appeared on her elegant face, just like when Yi Qian saw Qin Shio standing under the sun and waiting for someone through the glass. She was calm and elegant. "Don't be nervous. As long as you remember our conversation today, you will never need to be nervous." Qin Shio smiled and looked deeply at Xia Jinyuan. Then she looked at Yi Qian and said, Don't be shy. You haven't seen him for a long time. It's normal for you to have some physical contact with him. When Grandpa Fu saw this, he felt that the two of you were very close. He was very relieved. It turned out that Xia Jinyuan was not as calm as he appeared to be on the mountain. He was nervous. He was worried about his potential love rival. He was worried that one day he would really stand up and snatch his girlfriend away from him. This was not bad. If he was nervous, he would treat Yi Qian better. If he treated Yi Qian better, he would have less chance. That way, Yi Qian would be very happy, and he might be able to let go. Qin Xiu walked around the two of them. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Yi Qian's ears turning red. He couldn't help but smile. He was really shy and adorable. He walked into the kitchen and greeted Uncle Fu naturally. Uncle Fu asked him to pour some hot water for himself. It was obvious that he treated Qin Xiu as a family member. Xia Jinyuan was silently enduring his girlfriend's gentle attacks. He kept begging for mercy. I was wrong. I really was wrong. I won't do it again. I won't do it again. Be gentle. Be gentle. It hurts. Yi Qian, who was pinching his waist, put on a fake smile and said, Do you really know that you were wrong? Huh? Do you really know that you were wrong? I really know. Chapter 54-41. After Xia Jinyuan repeatedly begged for mercy, Yi Qian finally let go of his hand. Afraid that Xia Jinyuan would continue to be impudent, he glared at him and said, Don't follow me anymore. Go upstairs and rest. She still had to continue helping Uncle Fu in the kitchen, so she had to chase the troublemaker upstairs to rest. Xia Jinyuan actually had something important to discuss with her. He rubbed his waist where his girlfriend had pinched him, looked sideways into the kitchen, and said to Qin Xiu, who had not come out yet, Ambassador Qin, please help out in the kitchen. Yi Qian and I will take over later. No need. I'm not busy here. Uncle Fu hurriedly refused. You've been working hard every day. You should rest well when you get home. I'll leave the kitchen to you. If you're bored, you can play cards or watch TV. Don't come to the kitchen and cause trouble for me. Uncle Fu, who had been in the kitchen, had always taken care of old Master Fu. The kitchen was never a problem for him, so it was more convenient for him to wander around the kitchen alone. Yi Qian was in the kitchen. Uncle Fu had chased him out twice, but he had not been chased out. He had only asked her to help because he could not persuade her otherwise. Qin Xiu was also chased out by Uncle Fu. She said to Xia Jinyuan calmly, Uncle Fu thinks I'm a hindrance. If you have something to do. She glanced at Xia Jinyuan and remembered that he had suddenly come down from the mountainside. The sensitive diplomat guessed that Xia Jinyuan must have something urgent to talk to Yi Qian about. Go ahead. I'll take care of the two elders. Xia Jinyuan did not stand on ceremony. He pulled Yi Qian upstairs. Qin Xiu, who was standing in the living room, narrowed her eyes slightly. She stood there thoughtfully for a while before returning to the chess room. Something urgent? What was so urgent that he had to look for Yi Qian so suddenly? He did not look for Yi Qian when he came down from the mountainside. Instead, he went to the guest room upstairs. No, something is wrong. Qin Xiu, who was walking to the door of the tea room, suddenly stopped. He mentioned the Li family, Li Chuhai's death, old man Li's possible death in the hospital due to anger, and the rumors about the Li family in the capital. Then, Xia Jinyuan said that they would stop here for today. Did Xia Jinyuan come down because he heard about the Li family? The Li family? Family Xia? There were no grudges between the two families, nor were there any interactions between them. Why did Xia Jinyuan seem to care so much about it? Xia Jinyuan didn't seem to care much about it. When he mentioned the Li family, Xia Jinyuan's expression remained indifferent, and he didn't react strangely. Then why did he... Wait a minute. Qin Xiu's hand, which was holding the hot water bottle, suddenly froze, and his handsome face darkened. Li Chuhai was shot to death. Although he didn't know where he was shot to death, with old man Li's ability, it wouldn't be difficult for him to protect Li Chuhai and send him abroad. But he couldn't escape and was still shot to death. Could it be that Li Chuhai was shot to death by the military? Was that why Xia Jinyuan wanted to go down the mountain immediately after hearing the news? If that was the case, it would explain why he suddenly said that he wanted to come down. Qin Xiu took a deep breath, suppressed the shock in his heart, and opened the door of the tea room. The two elders were still playing excitedly. One moment, they complained that the other was too slow, and the next moment they complained that the other was too talkative. Like two children, they played Go happily for nearly 3 hours. Upstairs, Yi Qian heard Xia Jinyuan's words and pondered for a moment before saying, "It doesn't matter if they know. No one can prove it to them, so I'm not afraid." Old man Li has passed away. Old Madame Xiao Li is now fighting a battle of wits and courage with her stepson. Madame Li is being watched closely by the deputy chief of staff. Even if she knows about me, she can't do anything to me. The deputy chief of staff won't let her do as she pleases. Chapter 54-42. Yi Qian, who was sitting on the bed, slowly analyzed the situation. His voice was clear, and there was no hint of panic. I heard from Uncle Xia that the deputy chief of staff has always been fair and abiding by the law. Occasionally, he would make some small mistakes, but they were harmless and wouldn't affect his career. In the beginning, Old Man Li did help his son-in-law, but later on, the deputy chief of staff himself couldn't stand Old Man Li's behavior. He took the initiative to ask for a transfer to another place, and then he met Uncle Xia. Then, I don't need to worry about the deputy chief of staff. The only thing to worry about is Li Chuhai's twins. They should be a little tricky, but there's no need to worry too much. I'm in the army, and they're in the country. Now that they're on the blacklist, they can't go back to the country, so they can't do anything to me. It's not easy for the deputy chief of staff to get to where he is today. He can't ruin his decades of hard work because of a criminal. If Mrs. Li wants to do something stupid, we don't even have to step in. As her husband, the deputy chief of staff will be the first to not let her off easily. Oh, right. What about Mrs. Li's eldest son? What's his character like? I once sent him to the regiment he was in charge of. Du Jai wanted to deliberately make things difficult for me, but she disappeared that afternoon. Later, Yijini told me that Du Jai was scolded by his brother, and she left crying with her suitcase. Yi Qian didn't know much about Du Kaiwei, who was also in the army, but he knew that he had some grudges with family Xia's eldest brother, Xia Lingxiao. Their situation was similar to that of the deputy chief of staff Du and Uncle Xia. They were both kings who didn't see each other. Xia Jinyuan saw that she was serious and didn't look worried at all. He couldn't help but cheer for her calmness. He leaned over and gently tapped the tip of her nose with his slender fingers. He smiled and dispelled her doubts. Du Kaiwei is not bad. His eldest son is like his father, and he's a little narrow-minded too. Apart from that, he is very good at keeping his younger siblings in check. At that time, Madame Li's youngest son hit someone and was taken to the police station. Madame Li wanted to get him out of the police station directly. It was Du Kaiwei who stopped her. He also specially told the people in the police station not to take care of his younger brother for the sake of the Du family, and to deal with him as he should. Because of this incident, his younger brother couldn't join the army. I heard that he even secretly hated Du Kaiwei for it. Du Kaiwei said to him, "You can still do your business under the sun and fly around the world with women in your arms. But those who beat people up with you, do they have a good ending?" Throw the information of those people to his younger brother. From then on, the family will be peaceful. Even Madame Li won't dare to blame her eldest son for not being able to join the army. From these little things, I can tell that Du Kaiwei is a good person. Also, he knows how to repay kindness. Back then, Yi Zhifan accidentally saved him, and he remembered it in his heart. He immediately asked his family to arrange for Yi Zhifan to join the army. Unfortunately, things went wrong in the end, and Du Kaiwei was also implicated. This was also the reason why Madame Li wanted to kill Ying later on. It was because she had implicated her husband and son one after another. Yi Qian was even more relieved after hearing this. She put her hands together and smiled clearly. That's good. Madame Li won't have any problems. We don't have to worry about anything at all. Yi Qian didn't show too much worry about the Li family knowing about her. She was calm in the face of possible danger. You should also relax. Old Madam Li and Madam Li won't be able to cause any trouble. And the twins can't come to our country. They won't have any problems either. Chapter 54:43. She was optimistic, but Xia Jinyuan was still worried. He thought about it and decided to tell her the reason for his worries. Li Jun can't enter the country, but his sister can. So far, the National Security Agency hasn't been able to find out his sister's personal information, such as her height and appearance. Therefore, it's very easy for her to return to the country, and she can easily enter our country. This was why Xia Jinyuan was so worried. Even Commander-in-Chief Xia was worried about Yi Qian because of Li Jun's sister. Foreign forces had always been arrogant. Once they infiltrated the country and hurt Yi Qian, the deceased Principal Chun was a good example. Xia Jinyuan didn't mention Principal Chun because he was afraid that it would hurt Yi Qian. Yi Qian was still optimistic. She patted her man on the shoulder and said earnestly, "Colonel Xia, what's going to happen will happen. There's no point in worrying. Instead of worrying, you should think about how to uncover the hidden danger in advance. I believe that the National Security Agency will find a way to find out Li Jun's sister's personal information. If that doesn't work, I'll ask my brother to find second Uncle Li, who helped us a lot, and see if he can find anything." Xia Jinyuan laughed. "The higher-ups have already thought of everything you can think of. Li Ronghuan unintentionally betrayed you and found out that you were the devil's sister, so he blamed himself. Because of this, he decided to stay in New Zealand for a long time and stayed at the Li family mansion to keep an eye on Mrs. Li. On the surface, he was fighting for the Li family fortune, but in reality, he was keeping an eye on the Li family for you. Then I have to thank second Uncle Li. Hey, he's helping here. Does that mean he treats my brother well?" She hadn't even sorted out her own affairs yet, but she was already thinking about her brother. Looking at Yi Jian's bright eyes without any haze, Xia Jinyuan was defeated by her optimism. Not only did he scrape her nose, but he also pulled her into his arms and rubbed her hair before saying, "Li Ronghuan is probably the only family member of the Li family who treats the devil well. If you want to know, you can ask the devil. Don't rub my hair, it's like a bird's nest." Yi Jian, whose head was being rubbed by his big hands, protested. She raised her head from his broad and warm embrace and looked straight at the man who was worried about her. "Don't worry about me. There are so many people helping me. I'll be fine." Even second Uncle Li, whom she had never met before, had given up on going abroad because of her relationship with her elder brother. He had returned to the Li family to fight with old Madam Li and Madam Li. With so many people helping her, she would definitely be fine. She wouldn't let anything happen to her because she hadn't found Uncle Chen's murderer yet. Therefore, she wouldn't let anything happen to her. She couldn't allow anything to happen to her. Xia Jinyuan could see the anger in her eyes. He did not ask for the reason, but he knew where it came from. He pulled her into his arms again and planted a gentle kiss on her hair. You're right. There are so many people silently helping you. How could anything happen to you? For your own sake, for the sake of them, for the sake of us who love you, you mustn't let anything happen to you." Yi Qian wrapped her arms around his waist and nodded gently. "I'll be fine. If she really comes to China, it will be a good thing for us. As long as she appears by my side, I will definitely recognize her. Silly girl, there's a technique called plastic surgery. If she comes to China, we might not be able to recognize her unless she does something bad." Chapter 54:44. Yi Qian was speechless. He almost forgot that there was such a technique. Other than appearance, there's also temperament and eyes. There's bound to be something wrong, Yi Qian said with his head lowered, trying to think optimistically of the situation. Xia Jinyuan didn't take this matter too seriously. As she said, what would come would come. Since that was the case, it was better to face it calmly. The two of them sat on the bed for about an hour. There was a knock on the door, followed by Qin Xiu's voice. "Sorry to disturb you, but I need you to come out and persuade the two elders." He knocked very carefully, afraid to disturb the two people inside. The two of them got up. Xia Jinyuan pushed the door open. Qin Xiu immediately saw that there were only two traces of two people sitting close to each other on the bed. After a quick glance, Qin Xiu didn't think about anything else. He said to Yi Qian with a slightly helpless expression, "Hurry up and persuade the two elders." They decided to go for a run outside to celebrate the draw. Yi Qian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Old Master Qin and his grandfather were both old urchins. It was the first time he had heard of people deciding to go for a run outside to celebrate the draw. Qin Xiu couldn't stop them, so he went upstairs to ask Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan for help. He hoped that the two of them could persuade Old Master Qin and Old Master Qin to come back, who knew that it was useless even if the two of them came forward. The two old urchins jogged around the courtyard twice before returning to the room with cold air all over their bodies. The three of them hurriedly served them. The two elders did not mind at all. Old Master Qin recalled the time he spent with the leaders who had passed away. He was full of nostalgia. He sighed to Yi Jian, who was busy. "Back then, your grandfather and I accompanied the leaders. We climbed Mount Tai, the Great Wall, and even went to the border. That year, your grandfather caused a huge commotion. It happened to be the 12th month of winter. I was in the state guest house greeting the foreign guests. When the leaders received the news, they sent the foreign guests away the next day and immediately took a private plane to where your grandfather worked. That place was covered in snow, and the temperature was minus 20 degrees Celsius during the day. Your grandfather held the data and ran, jumped, and laughed in the snow. The leaders stood there and watched for 5 minutes. Even their eyes were red. Speaking of the past, the old man felt as if everything had happened yesterday. Holding his walking stick with both hands, he recalled the memories engraved in his soul that old Master Qin had mentioned. A deep smile appeared on his old face. At that time, I was young and wasn't afraid of the cold. I could run on such thick snow. Later, the leader told me that he could tell that I had a good body and bones, and that I could work in the research position for another 50 years. Great leader, you're right. You can do it in the blink of an eye for another 50 years. Come to think of it, it really feels like it happened yesterday. I'm still old. I just ran 2 laps, and I'm already out of breath. The old man took the hot tea from Yi Qian and smiled at Old Master Qin. I admit that I'm old. Do you still want to be brave? Old Master Qin was also drinking hot tea. When he heard this, he waved his hand and replied, "I can't admit that I'm old. My heart is beating fast. I can't run next time. I don't want to scare the 3 young people." Qin Xiu's face was still dark. "You and Grandpa Fu caught a cold together some time ago. I also know that the two of you must have gone out in the wind and snow, so you caught a cold. This time, it's the same. Even if you're happy, there should be a limit to it." Yi Qian narrowed his eyes. "Grandpa, you just said that you didn't even catch a cold." Chapter 54:45. When Yi Qian asked Old Master about his health, Uncle Fu wanted to tell Yi Qian the truth. However, Old Master told Uncle Fu not to tell Yi Qian the truth in case she got worried and affected her work. He also said that he was fine now. As long as he didn't say anything and Uncle Fu didn't say anything, then Yi Qian wouldn't know that Old Master had caught a cold. Uncle Fu thought about it and agreed. He didn't want Yi Qian to worry, so he stood on Old Master's side. Even when Yi Qian was helping out in the kitchen, Uncle Fu didn't tell Yi Qian the truth. Now that Qin Xiu suddenly exposed the truth, Old Master didn't say anything for a long time. Seeing that Yi Qian's expression became serious, Old Master and Old Master Qin looked at each other, and then silently looked at Qin Xiu. Wasn't this child usually very smart? Why did she drop the ball at such a crucial time? Qin Xiu was unmoved and said indifferently, "I have no way to persuade you all. Then I can only bring out reinforcements that can persuade you all. Grandpa Fu, Yi Qian rarely comes home. She's worried about you the most. If you don't take good care of yourself, how can she work in peace?" Old Master nodded. "That's right. I have to take good care of myself. I want to see my great-grandson with my own eyes." Xia Jinyuan liked what he said and immediately smiled. "When the time comes, I'm afraid we'll have to trouble you to take care of the child for us." Old Master liked what he heard. He seemed to be thinking about the days when he would take care of his great-grandson and happily said, "If I still have the energy to take care of him, I'll definitely take him out to play. If you want to take your great-grandson out to play, you have to take good care of yourself. For example, today, the snow hasn't stopped and the wind is strong. You and old Master Chin ran around in the wind and snow because you were happy. As juniors, we can understand your happiness, but we hope that you two are healthy and don't have any illnesses or disasters. Xia Jinyuan was good at making the elderly happy. With just a few words, he made old Master Chin happy and promised to take good care of himself. He wouldn't allow himself to fall ill. Uncle Fu, who was in the kitchen, was amused when he heard this. This young master of the family Xia was indeed the best. After hearing this, Qin Xiu vaguely felt that he seemed to have grasped something. Looking at the happy old man and the happy old Master Qin Xiu fell into deep thought. After dinner, Xia Jinyuan went back to the old family Xia residence. Yi Qian wanted to go with them, and Old Master also asked Yi Qian to go with them to visit Old Master and Old Madam of family Xia. Xia Jinyuan did not let Yi Qian run around. He would go there tomorrow afternoon and have dinner while he was there. He considered that if he went with him tonight, he would have to spend the night at the old residence. Old Master had not seen Yi Qian for a long time. After everyone left, Old Master would probably have something to say to Yi Qian. After careful consideration, he returned to the family Xia residence alone. After Xia Jinyuan left, Old Master Qin and Qin Xiu also left together. On the way home, Old Master Qin sighed to Qin Xiu, who was helping him walk slowly. Grandpa won't rush you. I just think that you should hurry up. When I heard family Xia's sixth brother mention a great-grandson, I was so happy to hear that. Grandpa is old. Now that I'm old, I'm living less and less. After today's meal, I don't know if I can have a good meal again. Maybe if I talk to you properly now, I'll leave tomorrow morning. Qin Xiu frowned. Grandpa, you're fine now. Don't say such things. Chapter 54-46. What's so hard to say? The truth is right in front of us. Why can't I say it? Old Master Qin was open-minded. At their age, they lived less and less days. They were all at the end of their lives. Qin Xiu pursed her lips. You and Grandma will be fine. When my sister gets married and has a child, you and Grandma will have to take care of your great-grandchild together. Your sister has a husband's family. If she really has a great-grandchild, she will let her husband's family take care of her. Why would she let the Qin family take care of her? Old Master Qin naturally wanted to take care of his great-grandchild, but it was not something that could be done easily. It was not like the Xia and Fu families were so close to each other. Your sister brought that young officer here today and stole the household register for him. It could be seen that as long as there are no accidents, they will get married smoothly. That officer's family is in a small county. If his in-laws want to take care of his great-grandchild, your sister can't stop them. Although the officer said that he took the initiative to join the army and had a bad relationship with his family, once the child is born, which Grandpa and Grandma can bear to ignore their grandson. Even if that officer ignores the family, Grandpa and Grandma will come to find him. Old Master Qin did not dare to think that his granddaughter's great-grandchild will be taken care of by the Qin family. He wanted to take care of Qin Xiu's great-grandchild. After thinking about it, Old Master Qin smiled and sighed. Xiu, there are some things that we can't force. If we force it too much, we will make things difficult for ourselves. Grandpa knows your character best. You would rather make things difficult for yourself than make things difficult for others. Living like this will be very tiring for you. You have a lot of pressure at work. If you can't find a considerate person who can make you laugh and talk to you easily, your life will become more and more difficult. You will even find your whole life gloomy. Even if you put all your passion into work and let work fill the gloominess in your life, you will still be very tired. After a long time, you will feel that you're not interested in work at all. Do you think Grandpa's word makes sense? Don't you think so? The Fu family was not too far away from the Qin family, only about 300 to 400 meters away. Old Master Qin wanted to chat with his grandson, and now that the snow had stopped, he slowed down his pace and chatted. Qin Xiu's heart skipped a beat when he heard Old Master Qin's words. I didn't force you. Don't worry. Do you still need to hide it from Grandpa? It's obvious that you have someone in your heart. If you don't tell me, Grandpa won't ask. Other than old Master Fu, only old Madam Qin knew that Qin Xiu liked Yi Qian. However, old Madam Qin didn't tell old Master Fu. She wanted to keep it a secret for her grandson. She didn't want old Master Fu to play a trick and tell old Master Fu everything about her grandson. Yi Qian had a boyfriend. Qin Xiu knew about it and liked Yi Qian. Old Madam Qin thought that the fewer people who knew about it, the better. Therefore, she kept it a secret even from old Master Qin. When Qin Xiu heard this, he knew that old Master Qin didn't know about it. He couldn't help but feel relieved. However, he also felt an inexplicable sense of disappointment. If he knew, would there be a different situation? When this thought came to his mind, Qin Xiu immediately stopped himself and warned himself not to have such thoughts. Even if Grandpa knew about it, there was no chance for him to get involved in Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan's love life. She slowed down her pace and walked slowly back home with the old man in her arm. The yellow street lights seemed to cover the pure white snow with a layer of dreamy golden gauze. Occasionally, the snow would sparkle like diamonds. Chapter 54-47. Old Master Qin patted Qin Xiu's hand that was tightly holding his arm and continued kindly, "You're a child with goals and ambitions. You love our motherland and are willing to use all your energy to serve our motherland. Grandpa was also at your age of passion, so Grandpa understands you very well. Even if you tell Grandpa now that you're not going to marry for the sake of the motherland's diplomatic strength, Grandpa will understand. But Xiu Grandpa is not a saint. Grandpa's heart is soft, and I can understand you. But I really don't want to see you alone. Grandpa will feel sorry for you. Find a like-minded girlfriend, like little Miss Jian and old Six to the Xia family. Both of them are soldiers and have the same goal. Even if they are thousands of miles apart, they will always work together to achieve the same goal. This way, there will be an invisible belt connecting them. No matter how far apart they are, their hearts will always be together. This kind of love is not just personal love, but a spiritual sublimation. Two souls will fit together. As time passes, the feelings will not fade because of a long separation. Instead, it will become more fragrant like old wine. Grandpa hopes that you can find such a girlfriend. We won't force you, but you can't deliberately find another one just because you want to forget another one. That will be unfair to the next one. Grandpa doesn't agree. Your uncle made a mistake. Although Grandpa recognized Qin Yi as a member of the Qin family because he was innocent, your uncle, Grandpa will never forgive him in this life. You must remember that we can never make mistakes just because we are young. Also, don't comfort yourself by thinking that no one has not made mistakes when they were young. Being young and frivolous is a good thing. It's because you did some frivolous and immature things to fulfill your dreams when you were young. All mistakes must not go against morality and principles. You must not step on other people's pain and gnaw on other people's flesh and blood. Remember Grandpa's words and walk your own path. If there is no hope for someone or something, you must be able to pick it up and let it go. Do you understand? Grandfather doesn't have any other hopes. I only hope that you can find a like-minded lover to spend the rest of your life with you, sharing honor and disgrace, never leaving you. Old Master Qin said in a low voice, persuading, comforting, and lecturing. Qin Xiu was his most beloved grandson. He was also the most promising grandson of Qin Xiu, who could support the Qin family. Qin Xiu hoped that his most beloved grandson could be happy. He didn't need to sacrifice his own happiness for the family and listen to Mother Qin's arrangement to find a girl with a compatible family background. He only got married because the girl was compatible with the Qin family. Qin Xiu listened attentively and heard all the old master's words. I'll find a girl who shares the same ideals as me. Don't worry, Grandpa. Don't worry about me. I'll take care of my business. Don't be angry because of what my mother did. My mother doesn't have any other intentions. She just wants to find a girl who is compatible with the Qin family and won't drag me down. You can't blame her for thinking this way. It's just the general trend in the capital. For the sake of development, strong families will join forces and form alliances through marriage. This is the most effective and convenient way. But my mother is wrong. Our Qin family doesn't need any help from strong families or alliances through marriage. I'm not involved in politics, so there's no need for this at all. I'll talk to my mother again. Don't worry, Grandpa. Chapter 54:48. The fact that Qin Xiu could see through it made Old Master Qin feel relieved. When they went to bed at night, Old Master Qin told his wife about this. After a long time, Old Madam Qin said, "The person in our grandson's heart is too outstanding. She's so outstanding that it's difficult for him to find another good girl. Sometimes, when I see Ding Kong's wife looking for girls everywhere, I don't interfere and let her do as she pleases. Isn't it because I want to see if Ding Kong's wife can find a girl more outstanding than the girl in our grandson's heart? Now, it seems that I was wrong. You're the one who understands. It doesn't matter if the girl is outstanding or not. What matters is that our grandson likes her. We have to make the other girl like our grandson. Both of them are in love and have the same goals. Then, their lives will definitely be perfect." Old Master Qin, who was lying down, felt that something was wrong. "That's not right. Wife, you're hiding something from me. Qin Xiu has someone in his heart. Do you know who Qin Xiu is thinking about?" "I don't know. Why do you have so many questions at night? Rest early. I'll bring her boyfriend over tomorrow. Take a good look." Although the young man honestly said that he doesn't have a good relationship with his family because he became a soldier, you can ask him in detail. Is there anything else other than this? It's true that the young man is honest, but we can't not ask about his family situation just because he's honest. His whole family is teachers. Why is it that the son he taught has a bad relationship with his family? I'm afraid there's something else. Old Madam Qin immediately changed the topic. Old Master Qin knew his wife's temper the best. If she didn't say anything, she wouldn't say anything even if the leader came over to ask. The mouth was more important than the clamshell. In the past, she would definitely be a hero who would rather die than submit. Old Master Qin, who didn't ask anymore, lay down and thought for a while. He didn't know when he fell asleep. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, Yi Qian was sleeping soundly when he suddenly heard the sound of an ambulance whizzing past his ears. Then it stopped and kept whining. Yi Qian suddenly opened his eyes. Without even putting on his shoes, he ran barefoot to the window and pushed it open. Without the soundproofing of the window, the sound of the ambulance could be heard even more clearly. The voice came from the Qin family. The old man who was sleeping soundly also woke up. The soundproofing of the villa in Denga Garden was not bad, but at this time, everything was silent. The two houses were close to each other, so naturally they could hear it. Yi Qian quickly put on his clothes and ran downstairs. He saw that the old man had also gotten up. The guards and Uncle Fu, who were sleeping in the guest room downstairs, had also gotten up. "Girl, hurry up and go to the Qin family to see what's going on." An ambulance came in the middle of the night. Something must have happened to someone at home. When the old man saw that Yi Qian was fully dressed, he immediately ordered, "You go and help him. Apart from the guards, only Xiu is staying in the Qin family tonight." Yi Qian nodded. "All right, don't come out. I'll go take a look now." Yi Qian would have gone over to take a look even without the old man's instructions. She and her father Fu had not been at home for many years, and it was all thanks to the Qin family that they had taken care of them. Now that the Qin family was in trouble, it was only right for her to go over. The old man also wanted the guards to accompany him, but Yi Qian refused. "No, you also need to be taken care of. I'm fast, so I'll call you when I get there." The old man knew what Yi Qian was doing, so he let Yi Qian go over alone first, while he sat in the living room and waited. In less than 5 minutes, the landline in the living room rang. The guards immediately picked it up and heard Yi Qian's voice. Chapter 54:49. When Old Master Qin learned that his old friend was sick, the usually calm Old Master Qin couldn't help but panic. He wanted to go to the hospital himself. Uncle Fu could tell what Old Master Qin was thinking at a glance. He stood up and advised, You'd better wait at home and rest. If you go to the hospital, Jane Eyre will have to take care of you. I'm worried that your body won't be able to take it if you go to the hospital in the middle of the night. I'm afraid that you'll be tired and have to take care of old Madame Cheen's Jane Eyre." His words persuaded old Master Cheen. He was worried about his old friend. If he went to the hospital, he wouldn't be able to help. Instead, he would implicate the younger generation and have to take care of him. "Fine, I'll just wait at home." Seeing that old Master Cheen didn't want to go to the hospital, Uncle Fu felt relieved and said, "You go back to your room and rest first. I'll contact Jane Eyre later and ask about old Master Cheen's condition. What do you think?" Old Master Cheen nodded and went back to his bedroom with the help of the guards to wait for the news. On the other side, Yi Chien was sitting in the Cheen family's private car. She held old Madame Cheen's arm tightly and said softly, "Grandma Cheen, don't worry. The doctor said that you don't need to worry. We'll listen to the doctor. Now that Grandpa Cheen has doctors and nurses to take care of him, he'll be safe and sound. Nothing will happen." Old Master Cheen's sudden convulsion scared old Madame Cheen. Old Master Cheen's health had always been better than old Master Cheen's. He usually didn't even have a small cold. Now that he suddenly fell down, it scared old Madame Cheen, who was used to seeing storms. "Your Grandpa Cheen has always been fine, but he suddenly fell down." Grandma was also scared. "You've worked hard tonight. Girl, you came out to take care of me in the middle of winter. Shower didn't even ask you and directly asked you to take care of me. Alas, I've troubled you." Yi Chien rushed to the Cheen family and saw the medical staff rescuing old Master Cheen. The guards who were arranged to take care of old Master Cheen and old Master Cheen had learned first aid and won the precious gold medal for old Master Cheen. When Cheen Xiu saw Yi Chien, he did not regard her as an outsider and asked Yi Chien to take care of old Madam. Yi Chien agreed without hesitation. She had come here to see if she was needed. Holding the old lady's hand, Yi Chien said softly, "Grandma Cheen, you're treating me like an outsider. You're my elder. How can it be hard to take care of you? This is what I should do. I was worried that you wouldn't find me a hindrance." Yi Chien had never been good with words, but every word she said made people feel her sincerity. Old Madame Cheen, who was touched, held the hand to her arm tightly and sighed. "You're such a lovely child." Unfortunately, she had no fate with her grandson, Cheen Xiu. Cheen Xiu liked her, and she also liked her, but there was no fate between them. She missed the opportunity and regretted it. Alas, Xiu still hasn't let her go. Old Madame Cheen sighed again and again and sighed. She patted Yi Chien's hand and softly said, "Good child." She was really a good child. Their Cheen family didn't have the fortune to miss her. Old Master Cheen still didn't know that the girl in his grandson's heart was Unyielding. When the old man woke up, she would look for an opportunity to tell him. Thinking of her husband, old Madame Cheen's eyes became moist. Nothing must happen to him. Nothing must happen to him. The ambulance rushed all the way to the nearest hospital. The hospital had already sent doctors to rescue old Master Cheen as fast as possible. Cheen Xiu called Mother Cheen, his sister Cheening, and his uncle who lived in Beijing. Only then did he walk toward Yi Chien. Chapter 5450. Old Master Cheen entered the emergency room. Yi Jian accompanied old Madame Cheen as they stood at the door of the emergency room. She softly advised old Madame Cheen to sit and wait. She did not want to tire herself out. She persuaded her gently. Cheen Xiu, who happened to hear her, saw her grandmother sitting down and waiting for the news. Cheen Xiu, who was holding the phone, walked over with big strides. Old Madame Cheen heard the footsteps and looked over. She asked Cheen Xiu, "Did you get in touch with your uncle?" "Uncle is driving here. My mom and sister are also driving here." Cheen Xiu added, "My sister's boyfriend is driving. She said he is good at driving and is safe." Old Madame Cheen was about to tell them to pay attention to safety when she heard that Cheen Ying's boyfriend was driving. She calmed down a little. That's good. Your uncle. Alas, he is an adult and can take care of himself. Don't worry about whether he can drive or not. With the driver, he won't be wronged." Cheen Xiu's uncle was a businessman and loved to show off. His son and daughter did not have this hobby, but the illegitimate son, Qin Yi, inherited this. Qin Yi also rushed over. He was not informed by Qin Xiu, but by Qin Xiu's uncle, Qin Dingbua. Just now, the doctor and the ambulance told me that the guards rushed in time and pulled Grandpa back from the gates of hell. Next, we would do a full-body examination on Grandpa, focusing on his heart. Don't worry, Grandpa will be fine. Qin Xiu was afraid that old Madame Qin would be scared out of her wits, so he told her the best news. In fact, the doctor in the car told him that the situation was complicated and he needed to be mentally prepared. Hearing this, old Madame Qin's face relaxed. She looked up at the emergency room, where the lights were still on. Old Madame Qin only hoped that her husband could survive this safely. Qin Xiu said to Yi Qian, "I'm sorry to trouble you tonight." Yi Qian sighed. "You are treating me as an outsider. I have never been so polite to you when you took care of my grandfather. Grandma Qin and Grandpa Qin are also my grandparents. It's my duty to take care of Grandma Qin. Grandma Qin, don't you think so?" He drew the attention of old Madame Qin, who had been staring at the emergency room. Qin Xiu seemed to have noticed it. He couldn't help but take a deep look at Yi Qian. Yi Qian didn't look at him. He kept looking at old Madame Qin. "You're such an honest child." When old Madame Qin heard Yi Qian's words, her heart felt warm. "When he was young, he troubled your grandfather a lot. Sometimes, when he got into trouble, he didn't dare to tell me or your grandfather. Instead, he went to tell your grandfather first. At that time, your grandfather solved many problems for him and ate many meals at your house. Your grandfather dotes on him like he's his own grandson. Now that he's old, it's only right for him to take care of your grandfather. You really can't say things like thank you or thank you. You're in the army, so you can't come home often. Don't worry, we're here." Yi Qian took the opportunity to change the topic to old Master Qin. She asked about his grandfather's recent health and some things between old Master Qin and Qin Xiu. When she asked, old Madame Qin answered. This back and forth made old Madame Qin, who was already anxious, relax a lot. Qin Xiu was relieved. He didn't expect Yi Qian to have a way to make old Madame Qin relax in such a short time. In a moment of anxiety, he asked her to come over and take care of his grandmother. It was a wise move. Chapter 54-51. The sound of footsteps came from the corridor outside the emergency room. The sound of high heels was particularly clear at this time. At the same time, there was also the sound of someone talking in a low voice. Yi Qian, who was talking with old Madame Qin, didn't pay attention to it, and neither did Qin Xiu, who was listening. Old Madame Qin was talking about how naughty Qin Xiu was. She threw detergent into the fish tank where the old man was feeding the fish and said that she wanted to bathe the fish inside. Qin Xiu said helplessly, "Grandma, please save some face for me. If we continue talking, she won't dare to let me enter the house in the future." As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of high heels outside stopped. Then, someone called out Brother Qin with uncertainty. When Yi Qian heard that voice, his eyes darkened slightly. Old Madame Qin's face also darkened a lot. Obviously, she didn't welcome the person who came. Qin Xiu moved and looked at the person standing at the door. Du Jiayi, who was standing at the door leading to the emergency room, saw that it was really Qin Xiu. She was very happy in her heart, but she didn't show it on her face. She walked over anxiously and said, "Brother Qin, why are you here? Are you?" When she got closer, she saw old Madame Qin, who was blocked by Qin Xiu, and Yi Qian, who was sitting in the innermost room. Du Jiayi felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She stopped asking worriedly and looked at Yi Qian with her eyes wide open. Yi Qian, why was Yi Qian here? Why was she with Qin Xiu? Why was she holding old Madame Qin's arm intimately? Why was she holding old Madame Qin's arm? Why was she so close to the Qin family? When did she become so close to the Qin family? Why didn't she hear anything about it? Was she with Qin Xiu? This be *TCH. Is she with Qin Xiu? At this time, Du Jiayi was deeply provoked by the scene in front of her, and her heart was burning with anger. If it weren't for Madame Li's timely call of Jai, which woke Du Jai up, she was afraid that she would have rushed to Yi Qian and pointed at Yi Qian's nose to question him. She was awakened by the sound and quickly turned her head. She adjusted her facial expression and said to Madame Li, "Mom, I'm here." Mrs. Li, who had been angered by Li Ronghuan in the middle of the night, came over and said unhappily, "You disappeared. Go and accompany your grandma." Li Ronghuan not only angered Madame Li, but also angered old Madame Li to enter the yard again. In this way, it could be seen how powerful Li Ronghuan was. Madame Li, who came in as she spoke, saw Qin Xiu at first glance and was surprised. "Qin Xiu, why are you in the hospital in the middle of the night?" "Mom, old Madame is also here." Du Jai turned sideways so that Madame Li could see inside clearly. At this time, she had changed her facial expression and no one could see anything strange. She respectfully greeted old Madame Qin. "Hello, old Madame. Are you feeling unwell? Are you feeling better now?" When Madame Li saw old Madame Qin, she also saw Yi Qian. The moment she saw Yi Qian, Madame Li was no less shocked than Du Jai. Moreover, she also thought of what Li Ronghuan said in the past, that Yi Qian was the murderer of Li Chuhai. Du Jai only cared about jealousy because Yi Qian appeared beside old Madame Qin and didn't think about anything else. Madame Li had some skills. No matter how shocked she was, she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she quickened her steps and showed great concern to old Madame Qin. "Old Madame, how are you?" She didn't know how many times she looked at Yi Qian, and the depths of her eyes were full of needle-like hatred. The murderer was in front of her. How could she avenge her brother? Chapter 54-52. The other party was very polite. Although old Madame Qin didn't like the mother and daughter very much, the other party had always been polite. Old Madame Qin also replied politely, "Thank you for your concern. There's nothing important now. Just sit here and talk to the younger generation." She didn't want to tell Mrs. Li the truth, in case Mrs. Li took the opportunity to visit again. Her grandson had already made it clear that he didn't like Du Jai's hypocrisy in front of others and behind others. How could she possibly allow an outsider to visit and add to her grandson's heart? Mrs. Li could tell that Mrs. Qin wasn't telling the truth. Sit at the door of the emergency room and talk to the younger generation? Did she really think she was a 3-year-old child? However, since the other party didn't welcome them, she didn't have to stick to them. She didn't have any hope for her daughter's relationship with Qin Xiu. However, the Qin family was an aristocratic family. If they couldn't become in-laws, they had to deal with the relationship well. Hearing this, Mrs. Li replied with relief, "That's good. That's good. With Qin Xiu and Missy accompanying you, I'm relieved." Mrs. Qin looked up and rubbed her forehead. She said tiredly, "Thank you for your concern. I heard you say that you needed to accompany Mrs. Shaoli. Then you go ahead. Don't delay things because of me." Alas, my mother was angered by my second brother. She suddenly said that her chest hurt in the middle of the night. Jai and I were so worried that we rushed to the hospital. Have a good rest. We'll visit you next time. Mrs. Li didn't want to stay any longer. She had a high status and didn't have the habit of sticking to other people's cold faces. Du Jai immediately said, "Old Madam, you have to take good care of yourself." I saw that Brother Qin was so worried that his face turned pale. "For the sake of the younger generation, you must take good care of yourself." After that, she stood beside Madame Li obediently. She glanced at Yi Jian from the corner of her eyes several times, and her cold eyes were full of malice. Qin Xiu's brows were tightly knitted. He glanced at Du Jai and then slowly looked at Yi Qian. His thin lips were slightly pursed. Madame Li, who looked like she was about to leave, suddenly looked at Yi Qian and asked with a smile, "Missy, have you been in contact with Sixth Brother, who has a family Xia?" A few days ago, I bumped into Sixth Brother's mother. She was asking around to see if Sixth Brother is doing well. I wonder if Yi Qian has contacted Sixth Brother. Could he tell me a thing or two? She was not asking on behalf of Madame Xiao. She did it on purpose to leave a thorn in old Madame Qin's heart. Old Madame Qin's face darkened when she saw Madame Li's sudden hostility towards Yi Qian. Du Jiayi pulled Madame Li's sleeve and said helplessly, "Mom, you should choose a good time to ask. Yi Qian is with Madame Qin now. He has no time to answer you. If you really want to ask, we can ask later." Then, she smiled at Yi Qian and asked politely, "Yi Qian, can you give me your phone number? You have a good relationship with Xia Jinyuan. I will ask Aunt Xiao to contact you. Is that okay?" When the mother and daughter were talking, she knew that they had misunderstood her relationship with Qin Xiao. Hearing this, she said lightly, "No, if Madame Xiao really wants to know whether her son is good or not, she will naturally think of other ways. You child, you're still the same as before. You're like a hedgehog. In the past, when the relationship between your sisters was not good, you could say that you were young and immature. Now that you're all grown up, you are still the same. Alas, I can't blame you. You grew up without parents and lack manners. Well, since you don't want to say, I won't force you." Madame Li was very satisfied with Yi Qian's ignorance. She had once again planted a thorn in old Madame Qin's heart. Chapter 54-53. If Yi Qian and Qin Xiu really had something to do with each other, then Madame Li's words would really leave a thorn in the heart of old Madame Qin, who was the most well-behaved and came from a wealthy family, and Madame Li would get what she wanted. However, the two families had a good relationship. The older generation had helped each other and had a deep revolutionary friendship. The friendship was so deep that their family's business was their own business, and they had become a family. Then, it would be ridiculous for Madame Li to jump out and sow discord. She was like a clown. Old Madame Qin stopped being polite and looked at Madame Li coldly. The strong aura of the older generation spread out, which made Du Jiayi's heart skip a beat. She moved a little closer to Madame Li and lowered her voice until only the mother and daughter could hear. "Mom, don't say any more. That *TCH knows how to please the elderly. I think the old madam likes her very much. If we continue to talk, the old madam may feel disgusted." Madame Li smiled. She naturally knew that the old madam would feel disgusted, but as long as she thought that her brother was killed by this little *TCH who had no one to rely on and who seduced men with a beautiful face, she couldn't bear it. "Girl Jian, Grandma Qin needs to teach you a lesson today. We, living in this world, are bound to hear rumors and slanders. Some are said casually, some are said deliberately to curry favor with others. Some are said unintentionally, but are misunderstood and passed on wrongly. There are also those who are vicious and want to trample people to death. You are still young, so perhaps you still don't know how fearsome gossip can be and how public opinion can distort gold. If you meet such people in the future, you can either trample on them fiercely or treat their words as nothing and teach them a lesson later." Grandma Qin was stubborn when she was young. Now that she is old, although her temper is much softer, her character hasn't changed. Grandma Qin treats you as her own granddaughter and can't bear to see you being trampled on. No father or mother. No one to rely on. Do you think our Qin family is dead? Madame Li's face was really ugly at this moment. Old Madame Qin was saying that she was vicious and had bad intentions. She was bullying a young person because she was old. Well, Bouvet was the old madam of a diplomatic family. Her words were like knives that dug the flesh in people's hearts. Yi Qian, this little *TCH, was really scheming. She coaxed the 6 family Xia, and then coaxed Qin Xiu. She even coaxed Qin Xiu to give up her baby daughter and brought her home as a treasure. Madame Li, whose face alternated between blue and white, took a deep breath and thought about what to say next. She didn't care. She didn't care. She didn't hurt, and there was no real harm. She didn't care. It didn't hurt, didn't have any real harm her. If she wanted to say it didn't hurt, she didn't mind. There was no real harm with it, no real harm with her. The more he said, the more mistakes he made. The more mistakes he made, the more old mistress disliked him, and the more wrong her impression of him would be. It wasn't her who was at a disadvantage, but Madame Li. Grandma Qin. Yi Qian was about to speak when Qin Xiu suddenly coughed softly deliberately interrupting Yi Qian. She said calmly, "Madam Li, you have the time to meddle in other people's affairs." It seems that the Li family's affairs are not as troublesome as Madam Li said. You haven't even solved your own family's affairs. How can you meddle in other people's affairs? Madam Li, are you trying to make more trouble because your family's affairs are not messy enough? Chapter 54-54. Madam Li couldn't refute old Madam Qin's words directly because old Madam Qin said it under the guise of teaching Yi Qian. She didn't mention her by name. If she spoke rashly, she would fall into old Madam Qin's trap and admit that she was vicious and had bad intentions. However, Qin Xiu was different. Qin Xiu threatened her by name. "Qin Xiu, your mother and I have been friends for many years. It seems that you really want to go against your mother to the end. Alas, no matter how excellent you young people are, your vision is still a little narrow. You only look at whether a person is beautiful or not and ignore whether their character is good or not." Madam Li originally wanted to say something and leave, but now that she had said it out loud, she might as well say it directly, in case old Madam Qin really thought that she was talkative and intended to bully that little b asterisk tch. She didn't bully that little b asterisk tch. She was just telling the truth. As for whether the Qin family would listen to her, it depended on whether they were blind or not. Their eyes were blind, but their hearts weren't blind. I have known this Miss Yi for many years. Before she enrolled in the military academy, in order to take revenge on her uncle's family, she first caused her cousin Ying to lose the qualification for the college entrance examination. She was afraid that her uncle, who was an official, would find trouble with her, so I don't know what means she used to hook up with Family Xia and use Family Xia as an umbrella to protect her. Later, when second uncle fell, she was like a fish in water in the military academy. Not only did she hook up with Family Xia, but she also made friends with my nephew, Li Jinyan. Fortunately, my nephew is in the army all year round and has no time to pay attention to her. So far, he hasn't brought her home to meet the elders. Family Xia is also in the army. I'm afraid that his situation is the same as my eldest nephew's. He's just playing around and has never thought of bringing her home. Old madam, even if I really offend you now, I have to make things clear. This Missy is really good at scheming. She is talented, beautiful, smart, and scheming. She actually hooked up with 3 of the best young masters in the capital. Now, she even asked Qin Xiu to bring her to your house. I'm sorry to say that you have crossed more bridges than I have, but you have to be careful. Madam Li described Yi Qian as a fickle flower who had 1 foot in 3 boats. She was a scheming woman who only wanted to climb up the social ladder and enter the aristocratic family. Unfortunately, she didn't expect that Li Jinyan was Yi Qian's brother. Yi was the granddaughter of the Fu family. Family Xia had already treated Yi as his granddaughter-in-law. Yi was already of Xia had of, and Yi was. Xia's and Yi was. Therefore, her words didn't affect Yi Qian at all. Instead, it made old Madam Qin even more determined to stay away from the Du family and the Li family. She was already 60 years old, yet she still liked to sow discord. In the end, she still looked like a virtuous person who was considerate of others. Old Madam Qin really looked down on her. "Madam Li, you said so much just to let me know that Miss Jian isn't a good person. I like Miss Jian, she's a good person. And Madam Li, alas, I really don't dare to accept Madam Li's good intentions. I can't listen to a single word you said. Our Qin family doesn't have any friendship with the Du family and the Li family. Madam Li, you should worry less about our Qin family's affairs in the future." After saying that, old Madam Qin ordered Qin Xiu, "Sure, Miss Jian has been with me for so long, but she hasn't had a sip of hot water. Go find a nurse to pour her a cup of hot water. Don't make her thirsty." Chapter 54-55. The older, the wiser. The moment she opened her mouth, Madam Li's expression changed several times. She said that Yi Qian was not a good person, but old Madam Qin still ordered her grandson to take care of Yi Qian. How could Madam Li not be angry? Du Jia had liked Qin Xiu for so long, but she had never asked for a glass of water from Qin Xiu. The old Madame Li was still fine. She calmed down and even smiled to hide the anger in her heart. She had said so much, but old Madame Qin did not take it to heart and even directly came to slap her in the face. If she continued to say so, she would only be slapped in the face by old Madame Qin. Anyway, she had status and dignity. Madame Li did not say anything more. She only said, "Old Madam, you are really open-minded. We can't compare with you." Old Madame Qin smiled and agreed with her. However, Du Jia next to her was so angry that her face was distorted. She clenched her hands tightly to prevent herself from losing control of her emotions. She liked Qin Xiu so much and was so humble. Even when she was slapped twice by her father, she never thought of giving up. She only thought that one day, even if Qin Xiu's heart was made of stone, he would be warmed by her. However, reality had given her a heavy blow. Qin Xiu was not moved by her. For him, she had retired and returned to Beijing. For him, she had buried herself in her studies and worked hard to be by his side. In the end, he had given up his job abroad and transferred back to China without saying a word just to get rid of her. She gave so much, but what did she get in return? She got nothing. Only humiliation. Du Jia, who only felt that her heart was bleeding, finally could not bear it. Seeing Qin Xiu really get up to pour water for Yi Qian, Du Jia, who could not bear it anymore, chased after him. Madame Li bowed to old Madame Qin and politely said goodbye. "Old Madam, we'll leave first. Take care of yourself." "Take care, Madame Li." Old Madame Qin nodded with a smile and watched Madame Li leave. Old Madame Qin didn't stop smiling until she couldn't hear the sound of heels. She frowned and looked tired. "Unyielding, this time you're implicated by Qin Xiu. I support him to deal with Miss Du by himself, so as not to cause you trouble." Mrs. Li and her daughter could see how good the Qin family was to Yi Qian, and Qin Xiu could spare some time to deal with Du Jia. In fact, there was nothing at all. It was all Du Jia's wishful thinking. She patted the back of Yi Qian's hand again and sighed. "Grandma Qin didn't tell Madame Li about your identity just now because your grandfather and father haven't told anyone about it yet. Grandma Qin doesn't know why, but I can't let anger ruin your grandfather and father's plans. Your identity is still hidden. Miss Du is not an open-minded person. She hates you because of Qin Xiu, so the Qin family has a responsibility to protect you. Grandma Qin wants to discuss with you. Why don't you and Qin Xiu acknowledge each other as brother and sister? In this way, Miss Du won't hate you anymore." If the matter between Yi Qian and the Du family was so simple, and she acknowledged Qin Xiu as brother and sister, the danger would naturally be solved. But things weren't that simple. Even if she acknowledged him as brother and sister, her crisis would still not be solved. Why should she implicate the Qin family? Yi Qian smiled and said, "No, Grandma Qin, this matter will be solved. After all, the Du family has status. Although Madame Li and her daughter are not very reliable, the person in charge of the family is the deputy chief of staff. It won't be a mess." Chapter 54-56. Outside, Du Jia chased after him with large strides. Her every movement accentuated her elegance. She chased after him with a stubborn look in her eyes. "Big brother Qin." Du Jia caught up and blocked Qin Xiu's path. Qin Xiu stopped in his tracks and looked coolly at Du Jia, who was blocking his path. "Miss Du, what can I do for you?" Du Jia saw that Qin Xiu was still looking at her, and her heart was filled with joy. However, in the next instant, her expression darkened. She saw Qin Xiu bend down and take out 2 disposable paper cups from the water dispenser. Du Jia's eyes were red as she stared fixedly at the paper cups in Qin Xiu's hands. She had chased after him for so long and done so many things for him, but he had always treated her coldly. He was like a rock that could not be touched or melted. She would be willing to accept it if he was forever a rock, but why did he have to give his tenderness to that *tch Yi Qian? What right did that fickle woman have? Was she worthy? "Miss Du, if there's nothing else, please move aside, Qin Xiu said coldly as he held the 2 cups of water. To him, Du Jiayi was just a stranger. Big brother Qin, why should I? Du Jiayi clenched her fists so tightly that her fingernails dug into her flesh. She had done so much for him. How could he treat her like this? Yi Qian is a promiscuous woman. She has always been in an ambiguous relationship with Xia Jinyuan and is friends with my cousin. Now she's come looking for you, Big Brother Qin. What is it about a woman like her that Big Brother Qin likes? Du Jiayi reached out and grabbed Qin Xiu's sleeve. She looked at Qin Xiu with dissatisfaction. She couldn't have him, but that *tch Yi Qian easily got him. Why? Why? I know what kind of person she is. I don't need Miss Du to tell me. Qin Xiu was holding a glass of water in his hand, so he couldn't get rid of Du Jiayi's hand. There was impatience in his usually cold eyes. He knew very well what kind of person Yi Qian was. If he could, he would rather she was a fickle woman. That way, he would still have a chance. But now, all her heart was with Xia Jinyuan. Big Brother Qin. Miss Du, you better call me Qin Xiu. Qin Xiu did not want to be entangled with Du Jiayi anymore. Even if it was impossible for him to be with Yi Qian, it was even more impossible for him to be with her. Big Brother Qin, you and Grandma Qin shouldn't be fooled by Yi Qian's pretense. She's just trying to climb up the social ladder. She's just trying to deceive you and Grandma Qin because your family Xia didn't accept her. She's the best at acting and playing tricks. You and Grandma Qin shouldn't be used by her. Du Jiayi tugged at Qin Xiu and tried her best to persuade him. She had to reveal Yi Qian's true colors to Big Brother Qin. She couldn't let Yi Qian bewitch her Big Brother Qin again. How could that be *tch Yi Qian be so despicable? How could she continue to make things difficult for her family? She would definitely take revenge on the Li family. When the time came, she would definitely make that *tch suffer a horrible death. If Miss Du is done, then please let go of my sleeve. After all, men and women shouldn't touch each other. It's not appropriate for us to touch each other. Besides, we're in a public place like the hospital. Qin Xiu said sternly. He took a small step back and skillfully pulled his sleeve out of Du Jiayi's hands. He walked past her and strode back. Qin Xiu, you're too heartless. How could you treat me like this? How could you treat me like this? Yi Qian, I'll never let you off. Du Jiayi said in a low voice. When she mentioned Yi Qian, she gritted her teeth. Her eyes looked as if they were dipped in poison. She and Yi Qian were absolutely irreconcilable enemies. Qin Xiu brought the water back and handed it to Mrs. Qin and Yi Qian. Chapter 54-57. Madame Li had already left, and Yi Qian was accompanying the tired old Madame Qin. The light in the emergency room was still on, and the situation inside was unclear. Qin Xiu pursed his lips and looked back at Yi Qian, saying in a low voice, I'm sorry. If it weren't for him, the mother and daughter of the Du family wouldn't have said such things. Madame Li and her daughter are narrow-minded. What does this have to do with you? Yi Qian smiled. If it weren't for you, they wouldn't have said anything good about me. You don't have to worry. Although Madame Li's words were targeted because of Qin Xiu, she wouldn't blame Qin Xiu. Madame Li and her daughter were different from Qin Xiu, and Qin Xiu was Qin Xiu. She wouldn't mix them up, and she wouldn't vent her anger on Qin Xiu because of them. Mom, Grandma. Du Jiayi rushed into the ward angrily, and her words were still filled with anger. When she passed by just now, she saw that the *tch continued to chat happily with old Madame Qin and eldest brother Qin, and she felt angry. Moreover, eldest brother Qin looked as if he was completely bewitched by that *tch, as if he didn't hear a word she said just now. Jiayi, what's wrong? Old Madame Li looked at her granddaughter and asked, Who provoked you? It can't be that *tch again, right? The *tch was Li Ronghuan. Old Madame Li, who pretended to be in the hospital because of her stepson, felt uncomfortable at the mention of Li Ronghuan. She didn't expect that this stepson, who she forced to the point where he couldn't live in the Li family, would be so difficult to deal with now. Grandma, Du Jiai walked to old Madame Li's bed with an aggrieved expression. It's all because of that B***TCH, Yi Qian. My mom and I saw Brother Qin and old Madame Qin outside, just now, and Yi Qian was accompanying them. What right does Yi Qian have? That's enough, Jiai. Madame Li held back the indignant Du Jiai. Old Madame Li had been sent to the hospital because of Li Ronghuan. Now she couldn't be disturbed by other troubles. I will deal with that girl. You should accompany your grandma first, Madame Li said to Du Jiai with a gloomy look in her eyes. Don't bother your grandma about what happens outside. She would definitely not let go of the murderer who might have killed her younger brother. Moreover, that girl actually dared to go against the Li and Du family. She would definitely make her die without a burial ground. Is that Yi girl the one that Li Ronghuan said might be the one who killed Chu Hai? Hearing Du Jiai's words, old Madame Xiao Li sat up shakily and asked. She was a little emotional. Madame Li glared at her daughter and nodded while supporting old Madame Xiao Li. It's that girl. I don't know what kind of bewitching potion she fed old Madame Qin. Just now, when I went to expose that girl's true colors in front of old Madame Qin was still protecting that girl. That child Qin Xiu is also too much. He actually questioned me directly because of that wretched girl. I'm afraid that girl really fed him some kind of potion. Our Jiai is so much better than that girl. Regardless of whether that girl is Chu Hai's murderer or not, I won't let her off easily. Madame Li was also a little emotional as she spoke. Her voice was cold and ruthless. If Chu Hai was really killed by her, I won't let her off even if the Qin family is protecting her. She caused her younger brother's death and caused her daughter to lose a good marriage. Was this little B***TCH their family's jinx? Why did things not go smoothly after meeting her? Chapter 54-58. Old Madame Li leaned against the pillow, her cloudy eyes shining with cold light. I don't know if Li Ronghuan is telling the truth, or if Chu Hai was killed by this girl. But it seems that this little B***TCH is really not easy to deal with. You have to investigate carefully. You can't let go of your brother's murderer, but you can't let your guard down either. I don't know if this is a trap set by Li Ronghuan for us. Mom, don't worry. Have a good rest first. I'll investigate carefully. Madame Li comforted old Madame Li. You keep an eye on the house, and I'll keep an eye on the outside. Madame Li knew her mother's doubts. Li Ronghuan obviously had bad intentions when he said such words that made her father die of anger, so she didn't know if what he said was true or not. If he really found out the truth, would he be so kind to tell them? What if he colluded with that girl to set a trap for them? After all, that girl was also a tough one. Now that she had coaxed old Madame Qin, the Qin family must be on her side. At that time, if she and that girl were to fight out, and Li Ronghuan ended up as the fisherman who benefited from nothing, what should she do? But if what Li Ronghuan said was true, she would let Chu Hai down if she didn't take revenge and let the enemy who killed her brother hang around in front of her every day. Madame Li closed her eyes. She had to ask someone to investigate carefully. Li Ronghuan really knew how to deal with people's hearts. Du Jiai, who accompanied her mother, saw the fierce look on her mother's face when she closed her eyes, and she had a plan in her heart. Just now, she was so agitated by the scene of Qin Xiu getting close to Yi Qian that she forgot that Yi Qian might be the murderer who killed her uncle. Then, could she tell Li Jun about it? No, Li Jun already knew about Yi Qian. What she should tell Li Jun was that Yi Qian appeared in the capital. Would he do anything after knowing? Dad had made it clear that Mom was not allowed to interfere in the Li family's affairs, let alone uncle's. Even Big Brother had told Mom that the best way was to let Li Jun deal with Yi Qian. Yi Qian, Yi Qian. Du Jiai, who was leaning against the hospital bed, looked increasingly gloomy. Don't blame me for being cruel. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for knowing Qin Xiu and being liked by Qin Xiu. If she, Du Jiai, couldn't get him, then no one else could. Qin Xiu is a member of the Qin family, so she can't touch him. But you are an orphan. Even if you're protected by the Qin family now, so what? She still knew how to kill with a borrowed knife. In the quiet ward, other than the sound of light breathing, no one spoke. The three generations each had their own thoughts to spend the night together. It was already past 3 in the morning, and it was time to rest. On the other side, Mrs. Qin and Qin Ying had finally arrived. Fortunately, V8 was driving. He was really good at driving. Mrs. Qin had been on tenterhooks before, but later, she urged him to go faster. They lived a little far away, so no matter how fast they went, it would still take some time. Mom, Grandma. The mother and daughter hurriedly ran over and spoke at the same time. They had been anxious all the way here. Old Master had always been healthy, so why was he suddenly hospitalized? V8, who had come in with them, was the first to see Yi Qian. He was so surprised that he almost blurted out a question. Mrs. Qin and Qin Ying were also quite surprised to see Yi Qian beside old Madame Qin, especially Mrs. Qin, who was stunned. Qin Ying was the first to react. She secretly tugged at Mrs. Qin. Mom. Chapter 54-59. Her mother was prejudiced against Yi Qian. Instead of asking about Grandpa's condition, she asked why Yi Qian was here. Yi Qian's arm was wrapped around her grandmother's. Mother Qin came back to her senses after her daughter's reminder. Mom, you've been tired. You've been tired too. Sit down and talk. Old Madame Qin motioned for her daughter-in-law to sit beside her when she saw her gasping for breath. Mother Qin then asked Qin Xiu, "Show her how's Grandpa's condition now." The doctor said that the security guards rescued him in time and Grandpa is out of danger. The doctor is giving Grandpa a full body checkup now. Qin Xiu helped Mother Qin, who was gasping for breath, to sit down. The doctor will ask him when he comes out. That's good, that's good. Mother Qin patted her chest and felt relieved. She glanced at Yi Qian discreetly and said to old Madame Qin, Grandpa has always been healthy. He'll be fine. Don't worry. Qin Ying's heart was also relieved. After all, she had just brought her boyfriend back and Grandpa suddenly fell ill. Although it was just a coincidence, if news of this got out, there would be people talking behind her back. Aunt Qin, Sister Qin Ying. Yi Qian stood up and greeted them. Mother Qin nodded slightly with an indifferent expression. Aunt. She didn't dare to be called Aunt. How could she be the one to accompany old Madam when Grandpa was ill? Moreover, it was obvious that old Madam had known her for a long time. Why didn't she know anything about it? Qin Ying walked closer and pulled Yi Qian's hand. Yi Qian, we've troubled you. We've troubled you to accompany Grandma in the middle of the night. Her brother was amazing. He actually snatched someone from Xia Jinyuan and even brought her to the hospital to accompany Grandma. She had to ask him in private. Sister Qin Ying, you're too polite. It's my duty to take care of Grandma Qin. You don't have to be so polite, Yi Qian said with a hearty smile. When Qin Ying and Mother Qin heard the words, it's our duty, they instinctively looked at Qin Xiu. V8 poured 2 cups of hot water. Grandpa should be fine, right? Grandpa's fine. The doctor is examining Grandpa inside. Qin Ying saw her boyfriend go up to him. The two of them held each other's hands, and they could feel each other's nervousness. Qin Ying was not the only one who was worried. V8 was worried as well. It was his first time meeting old Master Li's parents, and he had fallen ill on the same night. If word of this got out, who knew how bad it would be? He might not be able to hear these rumors in the army, but his girlfriend would definitely hear these rumors. He had already wronged her by trying to climb up the social ladder. If he were to let her suffer such unwarranted grievances, he would feel extremely guilty in his heart. Don't worry, the old man's body is fine. It was rare for Yi Qian to see V8 so nervous. He had never seen him this nervous on the battlefield before. Why are you here? She was surprised to see Yi Qian's V8 act. Wasn't she supposed to be with Captain? How could he be with his future brother-in-law and the others? I'm here to accompany Grandma Qin. Yi Qian smiled and did not answer directly. Heh, don't think that I didn't see him sticking his head out and shrinking his head back. However, when Mother Qin saw this scene, alarm bells went off in her head. This girl knew Ying, Er's boyfriend again, and Grandpa Qin's illness suddenly fell ill in the middle of the night, and this girl was accompanying Grandma Qin in the hospital in the middle of the night. Where was she before this? Could it be that she was with Shio before this? What was she doing with Shio in the middle of the night? The more Mother Chin thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.